adom bi adom yen ama na wotwa kwa prasa beto yen ene ye hia ye bedi nko beto ato adwene ye be ka critical issue hu nsam issue say critical a ehun be hia se di hu komode kire oman no eno ne ye be ka ho asem ti bia wo bia no kan ho na ye no ntena akopem se ebebo anopa dubaako anopa yi asida ayi ni kabea ena mede ma special nsuo esimanimu yi eyesukuru gin ahode ahye ne ma and the special drink here we a special apple flavors bebre na emu de yi nso yasan so I this way chocolate drink and then the coffee drink na this way there edika yes what a tea I edi ase ye kan san say ya no ne ahode ahye ne ma ana need food need tabako no say na nya easy kra me de na ye twan me de boss me de boss oguso me na me ti hey na ye de asedan so ama best point savings and loans se wo mo eboa me de dwumadie abremu memi ni da bia na ena no pe aseda be come dominion herbal powder so se wo mo boa ama ye de dwumadie abremu na Vodafone so ya da o mase na no achi St Andrew Senior High School so wo mo gin kwada tete kwada ma buhuma so akwa animu so ye de aseda PSA ama wo mo ene anope ye be di nkoma afa nema hodo a asie na wotwetwa mu anase na wotwe mu ene America kribia besin konie Ministry of Trade and Industry Owura Keti Hammond ede nsihye bi aba say answer na obekra nema bi afi amanone ade ba o manga na mu no esese obeje tumi efri asoe no ho ansana si ebema wakra watumi akra saa ne na ye ka ho asemu yi wele eka ho bi yemade eka ho bi na ka ye tonwi eno so eka ho bi ena afi nema hodo bi a ekeka ho na saa nema ye boboso yi ebinum akasa dia fon se emmo omo adwadifo titiru akasa dia fon se nya dia bebo wo mo kra esanse ebegu omadwuma na ene yebedi won ko na bisa se aso process se so nipa ne kra fam aso rotiam nya to be kra dia kra nema no eno ne etisan sense se wo de proposal no ko wo de request ne ko na ye vetting committee veti wo na ye hwese sika kra de kra nema no nya sika ne free he na de obeto wo kra nema de aba no obi wo ho a wo toba ya o kra ba ya na wo to ana onipa ko no ye hwan ana obi su bi sa se na me na menya me sika na me kra nema de aba na metu ato amoman na wo ha ne sen nema enye illegal nema enya de a oman mra ekasatia na samakra de aba wo so wo te committee avete me ama me to be kra ta ibi okra na discretion of the minister obetumi akanse se me ma won kra emfa ma o mayimu ehun se be di komo na ebisasa so san mra yi ene san sese yi eto asomu na ebebo o man no na ebema esi kasam tutu so akosen ayasem na no pei ye be di hu komo yi papa na fe ye hwe nsam ahoro so a ekoso mra se bedwam no so aba beto dwa se budget no se ya pass se ya pass ye eno so wasam ye beba anopai afa special prosecutor ayen centrofo nhia mu akasa na ne se boka nyina ne se niema bi anko ye na se yanhwe ya okko a ye kwati akatahye ne proye no ebe dia ma ye pass ye betumi akọ esane court gina esi ahodo bi a benti opani na kasa o matiami du kasai opani so akasa na ekwo bi nso a wo mo nso na ehwe katasehye ene praye hu nsam so da to gya kirim se ekama se katahye ne proye no eyam minimum no dodo ya hwe ya ebe ha adwene pa na enkane chief justice anti abena sofa yakufa kasa wono so kasa for corruption ho ewo lithium contract ya sign no na lithium contract no ya kan say ni aso Ghana for to be nye ye be di sasam no nkomo ne esan se ayoma ne dachi ene ne kran ko ho asam ena ye ka nti na de betumi akasa kasam ntutuye ene amanyesam gina esi ahodo ho asam ena no pay ye ba na ye ba beka enra de si ya awo islegon ne de me nka ho asam ne aha wo mo ekoboye no na ye hye wo mo no me ma mobi ye ma me wo mo app ye ma ma mobi ena ya hye wo mo a ye mo boye no ti me nka bi na de ntia me nka bi no next week ena meka ho asam because me ni abre pa well as it is ɛna no pay asɛm na pese bebisa kakra atorenche mo esi ye ɛwɔ framantam mu wo bra ko so modam ne ebie ye no anya manfo ho no mfom so ɛne sɛ bia te sa de besi ɛyɔ haw ɛna aba ye nyina gitum sɛ ɛyɔ haw ɛna aba enti wonso adidi nipa anya hwe kura no media houses sɛ wo man Ghana mu obi a ye ne fam de aboy nua no ba wa ho kyiri mu yi na asɛm a bepese bebisa ne sɛ aso sika na aban sɛ wotwa de ato ode bo asafo no ɛwɔ he sika na VR fo so wotwa ade bo amanfo no ɛno so ɛwɔ he esa say di kan no VR so much about 20 million Ghana cedis bi a I think say millions of dollars o say cedis so say dollars o ye twesika bi de ato wo saa sika no ɛwɔ he abaya na musefo a ɛwɔ mansini ahoduo mu no ɛyɛ district municipal and metropolitan assemblies a asɛm yi ato wɔ mo no ɛmoaban ɛne ɛde ama DCE MCE sene sɛ monsom na momfa nya adwuma ɛwɔ grants hɔ ɛyɛ question na mebisa Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development sika bɛn ɛna mode amba monkrɔfo a ɛyɛ DCEs a ɛwɔ hɔ no Interministerial Committee ayete ya maame frema opare eda no maame wadawroma DCEs ne MCEs no mwatumi amomu sika bi so monye na momfa emwa niema ekoso no ho bra na me bi sa question we esan say according to me information no DCEs no momma mo hwe DCEs no sika ese akoka mo nsa na womtumi de eboa no enkoi Sankai, and they are struggling. Omo teso so betumi anya tumi anase sika e de aboa manfo e wo ho no. Ekokokoba DCs na no be hwe omanim. Ekokokoba wo mo a na be bisa mo say ni ma ekosen. Honorable. Enti e bisa say aban na musifo e wo ho mampene na musifo mu ye DCs no. Mama mu sika bi Samu ma woma den de simu kwansa mu ma omo sika na yesi atwa de ato ho government has allocated this government has budgeted for this blah 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 no say sika no ewo he den ti na DCs no mo bi efa mo affected people a wo mo ha kire wo mo ewo bia ya enso yi eyirifa ye nyina secondly samu bakaya abankrachi bi I think I stand to be corrected other Northton DC ebe kan say niema ne de amafo de bi aba na mom se be ya o betumi de afiri bebi o de aguo ade akomia hodo no den isan say di assembly no ni sika and o can say bi o say I must tell you the truth o say o kan no credit a kire yen say sika ese omunya no mutumi de high car eto fuel etumi ede niama no ekoma nkrofo no sika no ebi ni ho no kra no oboma no 20,000 that is 200 million says Canadian ene beye isa opani ni kan sasam no wieye no nkrata be na mahwede akokoma no asam be na makache sa DC no yama no kura kan adema ya organa asese no kura ni kan ya diama ya Ghana for so ne ente saa Ghana for ade ba kwa me ya dance no say ya kan kure because okwa neighboring countries ni titiri okwa mana ne na say before be 1000 na ho na say o mu fi Africa ha Ghana for do impact esa say ya ho brasefo esa say ya kan kure ya mpa ho asem na so say no kure kan ya o kan kura na ye tatawo o kan kura na ehunahuna o kan kura na edi watam eti sa DC no maka bibia kire no mo hunahuna no mo den na mo ye den na mo ka kire na nkasa operation yaji sika operation en fa nwa amatu a corporate tax asom no ma fa ma ye no me see ye starting in ne say operation ye gie sika ne ye dia so one more say mo gie no to me nye a Ghana for mo me nye essence the money belongs to us as Ghanaians. Operation ye gie sika ne ye dia mo ma ye ni mmere na hoho no ebu ye dodo ahoho no eselman no e dia ma yen ahoho no ye niam be ma Ghana for wa kire wo mo esan Ghana for kakra bi ye no ma kwaye apam e no mo ye yesa ahoho no selman no sika mu nyina no wo mo de kɔ sika mu nyina wo mo de kɔ ye de kakra bi esom de ma ye no so a eno so ye sanka ebedu biribi no niema hodo a yenya no nti de etumi egese sika ni nyina no niema na ebesa se gold a ebesa oil ikura no asa hye se esa ebedu biribi no sa niema ni nyina no ebesa ansa kura na eso beti ebedu sabre no ye ni hwe na ye sika no ya ma hoho abesesa e de akosesi omukuru ne ya da ne nkwa wa Ghana ha. It's not possible. It's not possible. Enye eti operation ye Jessica His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, His Excellency Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, Honorable Kanoforiata, ene wo mu a aka nyina be pamo chaw Ghana fo huna mane o Ghana fo bre eti nipa bi a yesika wo mo nkyɛn ɛto ɛso mu twa no mu ntua ye no sabre akadi wiase mu nkrata nyina kogu am so se agye sika because ɛyɛ dia Ghana so ahokyere mu as we speak IMF second tranche no aba na wa kwesem say yire afi no first tranche no ebae second one is $600 million no aba because omo kan say November mu na beba November na twam na anu nie it second tranche no aba emaya adenti na emaye saban so a ana na monka me yanteye IMF second tranche esika sese ensaka no IMF for the bosi aye kope ene mu a omo bo ayen ye de ensa to ensa mu epache wo no de to so mienu esese eba no me bi sa do pay say November bosomi no nanka yesi aye first so anya first na baba na no whole November bosomi no mu ene baba November na atwam IMF sika no aba ade na monka me yenteye se ma yen so a adenti na ma ye yane aman hodo a de omoka ekueku a de omoka e wa manane no hyehyeye yesi no omoye sa DDP ye bi ye bi organa domestic desk program yi ye de manane for de no akokosi sei mummie bi na mani so fa ma yen so hu ebeboa ba ye koba atoyeyem ebeboa ama hoye bibrebe no akofam ma ye fa niema ensie esanse mpani se utwa kontompo se osafo ayira oda bonten se wo mame awu na so wada ade beche akombedew wo besu akire hwan wana bekasa ma komode me wo mame no wawu da ho wo so se wada nyane ne ma no aduane ma wonie nukuri bi wo ho amoma yen kana Ghana fo se Ghana fo yi this is the exact situation we find ourselves in yani amafo ahia yetumi DDP DDP no Ghana hawi afi amanano fo de no ebia ye na duru sei enhye da nkoyi papa enti yegusu a yeye na magana fo hu transparency bi awo ye nema yeye mu nukuri de bi awo ye nema yeye mu si anyine sa ne etete ho na de bia no ye ni sei ya atoje ya na bisa bi o se enkane ya dundum no eye dum so enkane ya dundum a ekoso sesei no ebi 3 hours ebi 6 hours ebi 4 hours ebi 2 hours bi pacho eye dum so ana eye question pa na me bisa no pay se enkane ya dundum no eze dum so eye dum so ye twani ahwe masaka bio so utwa kontompo sɛ wosafo ayera a woda abɔnten ɔkyenachi na nkwada a BC nsɔhwɛ mu twere yeye a wɔn kɔ senior high school no wɔn ɛkɔ na mmarahyɛ badwafoɔ ne nkrataa akɔkɔ ma asɔyɛ hwɛ wɔn ahwɛ ahosam soɔ ɛne Ghana Education Service minia Dr. Eric Nkansa bi anɔpɛ bi mo akye wɔn sɛ juada deɛ ɛbɛn dodo nti mu ntwom kakra sɛ bɛyi a mu ntwom kakra ɛsan sɛ masa nipa yɛ hot o ɛna abere no san so dodo nti mu ntwom kakra Eric minia mo bɛtwam anasa mu ntwom yɛhwɛ sɛ yɛbɛtu ɛho biribi nti ɛna nɔpɛ yɛbɛdi ho nkɔmmɔ pa na lithium a yɛka wasɛm ɛne ho sɛmsɛm no yɛne abinfo bɛbɛkasa ɛde afa ho ne yɛahwɛ sɛ saa lithium contract ne yɛkɔkɔ sign no Ghana fo yɛntumi nyɛ yɛni Ghana fo a ɛyɛ capable so bɛtu lithium no agye ahɔho na yɛbɛtu di ma yɛ mo miɛntwɛn ho yɛba a yɛbɛdi saa nkɔmmɔ no yɛbɛyɛ si a mo ntwɛn yɛ Ewia ye kwaya yakwa aba na amafo se bona ma mobi na hye omo pa because ayi se na ma post gina ho pa no na mte se I say opon wia pe mebua na yaw
oh no e ja wo fo wa de ma mobi
munyi fa nto so munkala mun fa photo yin to so wo ho
eja de no ambo bi
me sinsa ball ya mama meka wasem na munkala mun fa photo yin to so me send am osisi ya mo fa se bi ne twa de send me say wo fa wo ye good sa munkala mun saka aha munkala fa picture no to TV no so aha na me oporia Allah o mama ambo bi ene ye share wo mu enti woma e share wo mo no wo mo ho ai me nka ho bi because ma mo bi
basa na o share wo mo
Jesse dem she bi Jesse me share na mo mama mo na o share upon ria pa mama na ay okay and I no pay mama hwe aha Aaron se waboatin anopa bi ma wachi baby a wo bia wo hwe me mesumi hwe obi Aaron, a very good morning to you. We are Juma Ghana Immigration Service. Later we're gonna talk, you know. Ebidi enkomo sanso na edubu afua nso Ghana Immigration Service nso anopa me ma wachi ade na bi ba ya che tibo modern na bi mra fama se wa no famre me wate cause ehu hia me pa yes na ena no pay so me fa sa ho kwan yi na me nua ba ko a me ne no wo Akra ha nana boatin otu ni badin enti nana bebia wo bia no pay as usual unua me chiawo ema wache ema wo etirin kwan so eti me pamcho ahwefo se me mabomadi address isi akogina park so ne mama mobile libia eye se me ma address sei ejina park so wona mo hwe me nan no benkum no won se ne ayi me sere na abubo no eti mimi gina ho se wa hwe post hwe wa hwe ne mama mobile ni bia eye me pamcho monjaji obi bia mo bia na bo no asabe nyankan mi obi anu sefi mi kona bremu nyina na ma 11 na mebo ma bo no ma 11 sa de anyini na mo ma bejasi a mo na kama no ma 13 e mo kuma no ma 28 bisi mi nyanka sai ball ya ye bo nra no mo mu se be de no ma 11 ma bo no ma 11 bi ye wo mi ngen na mi start bo no ma 11 sa na mi de nya be eduru na mi tie yi na se ye ko bo bola mo de mo ma no ma 11 no kura ni ho mo no ma 12 na 13 nya na se ye mo kuma no ma just no ma 28 mo so mama me amo mama nkrofo fisa ko bo na ba o mo ntumi anhwe me na me na mo se ya na mo bo ni she o mo she ye tu omo she obutu me nka ho because board ma mobi hey enkrofo ipa ma ha mi o ayo enso be ni dey awie ana no pay sana bi kan Mr. Mrs. Boatin me mamachi enti enne race course gidigidi pa ya beba na ya beta wachi ama no aye kama na mo fa se ba ko nana ya ma wo fa mobi o wo fa ya mama mobi na me de abeti na hayi enen so eye nana ya ne baba eye miame nana se mo fa se ba eye me nana ye fa no Jessica nana ya edujemfi ene eye Jessica woda enti me nana bibia wo bia wo nana bema me se me ma utiri nkwa no ho so fe no ho fe pa waka ne na to na so fe wo nana me you show ne wati me you show pa ai me you show na no pay pa na me say me show penhwe me show e penhwe pa ma me hwe we nso messages bi anka me nyan anka me kenkan na anka ya hyase edi nkomo ene Benjamin Ensia ewo fie ha Benjamin Ensia ye ka fa anwo ho nsem a wabi wo mu onokro ya nso sikasem tutu nso wabi ewo mu ben wo menchen a wa ben machi
ya jakona
bibia boko
na mi adom
okay ena dia wotimi benkum so edua ya nkwanta de se kronkron ya so mpa ya obi a onimumra oyelo ni ena wasan ewo sikasem hu nimdie pa na ben ya wakwa ba
ya ja
ukodi ya nkwanta che wo
ja da bi meko ho ifanze bible so mi ni
ache busu mi na ache
bronya ni edru
bronya ache so different one sana ana ai Benjamin Nsia me pamcho executive director Center for Environmental Management and Sustainable Energy wono enso ewa ha nti ebedi nkoma nche amanyofo mienu no ebaba beka ye ho na yetumi aye de sese yetumi eye na ye de nkoma sese yetumi edi ena no pen so MPP amayoko no orphan constituencies no womo eto aba ho gidigidi enya sanketo akra na ye amafo ani abre obi apeso odi nkunim nti ebehwe de besi ena no pen mame ema menua pani ono ana woye nsewam ahodwo hene na opare na no pen mema wache wo no watere ko nyina michie mu nyina mi hu wache ma besra wate yo nti ode to ogbu asema enche meba ma besro sanso ena menua bako airpre assemblyman ewo Kumasi South George Lamte honorable George Lamte pa George ne tafre no wo presable to abamane mane assemblyman what's the last one to amano no South Kumasi South Central anko yi ehwo nye kama Montoma George pa George no meya assemblyman e South Central so no ombesiesi ho onfa ne sa communal spirit ne wonu mu no enkam nyina mumum na musiesi South ma ho nya fefefe ai enti no pay wono so me ma na chipa chia no very very inchia pa enti ene ye be hye nkomotwetwe no asiara ene sa na no pay yen hyasie enfan free lithium in 77 ekuku bi akasa dia fa ho ayifo akasa ama wo muso mo kan no eye bebre na enkane chief justice mami Sufaye Ekufu ene ye di nkomo ama mama ne kasaye efa nhyem wo mu hyiae abinfu hyiae eto adwene efa sa lithium contractor o man Ghana ya sign no na wo mu samu a wo mu ekaye efa contract no ye betie bi na mumu no Samuel Abuginapo ono no eso afo oda aso na no e kire say sa contract ye sign no is the best contractor oban Ghana ya sign now so abinfo so kire say even though we say best contract but we have capable Ghanaians. Dr. Steve Mantia baby a wo bia no pay me srew na ye fro bo modern so befa na fe yetumi de enkomo na wo share bo so de ebedi no Dr. Steve Mantia ebubo Ghana for business people makumaku numdi say the pen no omo ewo capabilities in say obetu lithium a yenya wo Ghana ha no ade ti ne yamfa ma omo de adakoma ahoho na mo me etie ma me abena Sufaye Ekufu oni edi nkomo efa sanse mu no mo me etie kakra.
I recall is that when Ken became Minister of Finance in 2017, I heard him on the TV. He was talking, and he was saying that he sees his responsibility as being that of protecting the national coffers. Now, the promise and the achievement, the gap is too big, and I need more explanation. I think that's it. You know, you'll be surprised. I normally take things, when it comes to a lot of things, I take things from their most simplified format. There's no need to be complex about all kinds of things. I'm not an economist, so I'm not going to be able to argue all kinds of isms and so on and so forth. No. But all I know is that you were going to protect the national coffers, and they are now empty. Whether they were empty at that time or not is neither here nor there, because you were not going to be protecting the empty thing. You were going to protect it and make sure that everything that comes into it henceforth is going to be well husbanded. I'm using that word in its old-fashioned term, you know, and so we would go on, and we will not, you know, sort of reverse again. Yes. So I've been, it's been very disappointing.
How the economy has turned out.
Yes, and the fact is, whether it is Ken Ofori-Atta or if it was Mr.
It was Secretary before
Mr.
Ofori-Atta, yes.
If it was somebody else, it would still have been the same. I would still feel the same. It's not, you know, in public things, in things concerned with the Republic of Ghana, in things that are matters for matters of public interest, I don't get personal. It's not personal.
Okay.
It's not Ken Ofori-Atta, the person who's been given the responsibility to manage the economy, I don't think has done a good job.
Okay.
That's it.
Should he be removed?
Hey, as for that one, I'm not his appointer. The person who appoints,
if we're asked to advise the president today, should we remove him?
I will ask him, why is he asking me?
Okay.
And for Chichi, my main Sophia Kufani and Yanamo Joy from Nidin Como, and now walk a set of 4 Mexica, some who need to tell which as economy in Kuyi, Niaman Kuyi. Now, I'll say I can afford to say, when you one of the unbelievable baby, Namuno, Unipana, you did to me a man, so when they did to me a man, say, Mexica Samoso, Bois, Ntino, more or less, no, economic management team, no, penny or down, no, or see 1 year good job, 1 year Jumapa, Najuma and Seni. And who's the head of the economic management team? Your guess as good as mine, a vice president, and now walk on one as some no say, baby, Mexica Samocono, Nadia, a bois crack. Near Bisan Sentino, Unipano, on yen influence, ye me, Auntie Abena. There be on Pacho, Mr. And in the Yamna, you Nipano so media Nimuna, on your Juma so way, and your competition by qua, Yenon or near a new young joy from Foodie, and now Mamma Ekasai. Then which or can somehow be so, and if I can, my penny, John Dramani Mahama, Nasamoko can say 24-hour economy, no, or Casa Edifaho, Namumi tea, Mamma Samoa, or Cardify and also.
Each 24 hours, 3 sets of people. Now one line way in full employment. A big boost earnings, a big boost the value of services. That is any transportation and so we run that way. Say railway system no now finally what best did asangaba. And also constantly, now goods are moving, finished goods are moving to the port, which is a 24-hour port, supposedly on paper, a 24-hour port. Private transportation and also availability. So she said the availability, no, so it is just a phone call away, and yes, sir, you offer a digitalized system, which the world is now digitalized to a very large extent, because when you have a smartphone, you're already in that world.
That's right.
Obi ko hospital, doctor wo, nurse wo, lab nebue, pharmacy nebue, bibia to say jama 11 a.m. That's true. So necessity. If say police for also war advantage points, say offer an emergency number, where response, all those things, no. Say already now, say 24 hours. Yes. Minimum wow, they can say 24-hour economy. This or that. To me, that is we only have. Each 24 hours, 3 sets of people. Now one hand we're in full employment. A big boost earnings, a big boost the value of services.
Mame Sophia Ekufu anti abna sana me de me frɛ no wono na anopai wono ne samoka edifa 24-hour economy akane mampani His Excellency John Dramani Mahama kan ho asɛm no na wono so eche na dwuno sɛ be boost economy na beboa maneama atumi asesa na onihafo obi onihafo bi na obeka sɛ 24-hour economy no enye possible se bitumi aye adwuma na samoka na no achi so no wasan ekansama hoto bi mum yeti de twato na fe ni nkomo
enye party if say enye party nti na your constitution na enye party nti na vote party dey dey ben avenue enu nti na ebinum class say wankasa class want worry independent enye party Ghana nti no yenwe Ghana ho esese Ghana di kan mayen Bibia ye beyen yemisa yen hu adi eye magana na adi ebekwa akosi Ghana na ehu nsunsanso di Ghana bekwa akosi ehifem eno na esese ye hwe nti no se wo hu te bibiri koso a wo hwa emfa Ghana nkosi baby esese Ghana kosi a ese utumi brewa no kasa ewo tata okra wonye nyankopon my yenye hunfu so sa wotata o me no nti my adwene say me hwe 1 or 2 Ghana news programs asa me hwe sini me no fititititi na me papa kire me say ufi ase kan those days in text ni when they na letters so ufi ase kan letter na hwa letter no eyoyaw na ebe hwewa titimu obi and na obi busani bi na let me say madam am I or am I not over 21 no say na say ni amikikan nyina nka wo ka wo dem na me say minsum na me choose say me gina gwaso akasa say na ebe ya Ghana fo nsu beti bi say unya say obeti na dem bi no work am I not over 21 I'm over 70 goodness sake the only thing I may be some me say nya me pese me kwa akoye nya me pese me kwa me koken e be hwe urade ani ana na me pese me quote presby himbi asem biara meka no adi biara me ye no anka esese me bisa se ebe ye Yesu fa da esese me bisa Yesu kanu sana so obe
Mame Sophia Ekufu me mame ba ko pe ono na no pe ne nsama hodo kan ye no yetie bi no o se ebra so se Ghana ye dwene Ghana ho e chen se ye badwene ankorakore ho eno yasamu a emu odu yi pa na no pe waka ye nkomo hwetwe no e bitumi aka se e be fa ho pa His Excellency Sampiale nso abeka yensa NDC Professional Forum wono na eda no yeremo akwaba mejeso eda sese wonso abeka yensa na yini nkomo okay wedie yanhwe esa sama bi Sophia Ekufu akasa de afa ye 24-hour economy ninti no yemfa be sima be ye miensa nse nan bi eni hu nkomo kakra na yehwe se how feasible is it Ghana man penya be de chenso kire se sa enhihye no wo dada I will hold that. Dr. Baumia said, I will hold that. Until what the idea, any na enya dia, and we say a day eba. and osan so kan say anya bibia mapenda da mahama that twin ho kwa chiri sanse du ohwe no anya de a feasible ana nsema ho bi what your excellency on share some so 24-hour economy hu nsem ya ye kan abapi bebi a ye duri no ene mapani abede chin so de a ode ababe eka ho no na meti usema be nan
well Jacob na meda wase na meda wo fase sompa na president
na me alo
anti so free quant one teorication can send me na was think was strike a chord be with me there Ghana or yeah on from obi oyim there as your orokodi onye ni ya china ho magana wa be dem no and it's throughout history Jacob na time we ba attack UTV fun most stations no dey on for one Adam Bobia until they didn't even talk about it no ya na de ko si se ya la ko di we ko si akro for the Onuya TV. Have you heard their trouble with the NMC? And I've been scanning the media. Nobody is talking about it. So gradually, the media itself is helping in the demise of the media space. As some closer on the Mugana ha, in Penginofo over there, one can want some very controversial. But like I'm saying that if we don't raise it, nobody will raise it. It's the very unproductive, useless, who were the use rivalry that is arising between the Asantehene and the Domahene. Extremely useless. Second Kenyan constitution, and of us out there are always carrying the constitution. Ghana is a republican state, unitary state. For Christ's sake, the era of chieftaincy, chiefdoms, kingdoms, and abesenoko. We respect our chiefs for what they are as the custodians of our traditions, but we will never respect any chief who uses those traditions to keep tribal or ethnic sentiments. We will not. Because in Africa, most African countries, the wars are troubles will communal, other chieftaincy, religious, and non-state actors. Peace Council, you are watching it. Ghana Bar Association, the voices of conscience, the voices of justice, we are all watching it. In America, say some states feel that they are more important than other states. Some are even having their own state flag. And Eshawana, in all the actions, you will never see one Ghana flag being displayed. Where are we drifting to? It's not coming now. As that empire sensitive, emotional, is about his tribe. And I'm about his tribe, another Bibia attached to
religion.
Yeah. It is a young for being, and if I can say being here, what's Ghana ba? So as some about one wakan, no one away the me. Shakespeare says, if gold rust, what would iron do? That boy, some baby, and you're two for the Naikosu Penachoma, Okosovia. Now look at Onala at Otu Funanankasa from Moria. Nana, no. Yes, someone. For all we have suffered, don't add this tribal and ethnic or chieftaincy crisis. Don't. We don't need it as a country. We decided not to be a federal state, didn't we? We decided to be a republican, and there's a constitution there too. Nana. Nana mafoma nkita kakrampo wonye na woni mpanyinfi won den won som na won kada hey munjai mazero kwan se Jacob na awo de bia hwade ewuna otumfu orokọ friend Arekopo no ko bekum hwadoma woginachi adoma wodine a whole army that group no do so sen kan amina na no fan mo UC na hwe nana doman so ko kumawu hwanu so doma woginachi ne bia na nana no they don't intend na kwasampanyi bi ogina nkyɛn na waka pay bi na so anya kwa. We are seeing this nobody seems to be interested and to be talking about it. We be onyewa on pay wasum on fani ne san cheche onyewa se. Nti na the National House of Chiefs want na ho na wonhwe. Want na ho na wonhwe. Only the man kakran chieftains na sisi boku wa pay yi bia. Ye chieftains bia. Na the center of hope for our survival. Na fi mu so mo yadama ye wa sambon po. Kile ko na for the 24-hour economy na anti wakanyo wa awan that's of friend na anti Sophie also kwadwefo enda Ghana sompa ewia de obela ndau o sende awo ada wa bo 6 o'clock in India wa bo hana homache wan ana mubwa na Australia de adachi ntiye di bronya 24 na Australia was 1st January you find that 31st January into the whole world is becoming a small place or they harmonize everything including time. Since let's will be show a job program here no so our landing or the also be a matching no what and I'm will be into okay if all the resources are coming down my hand if we can also maximize time about one hand because time they say is what money. I don't know. I don't want to be interested in the because you have to be that. Work for free SHS by now. You can't. What kind of young person? Yes, you come out there. You can. You see what I mean? Even though the challenges are there.
Yeah.
But those who started criticizing the 24-hour economy, most of them have not even read the policy. And let me give you an example. Your brother Slightete of Botian, English Botian. Yeah. He was on Metro TV. Now, against the policy. Now, Dr. Randabi, boss, have you read the policy? As you know, the one that's sending the framework to the command. Until the NDC go through. If this is the case, then I think it's a good policy. What we are saying there, gradually our economy is shrinking. Your economy is shrinking and dying because unemployment we could do 13%, right? Inflation is gone up. Damn. So why don't you have a consolidated program or best start production? That's all we need, production and productivity. That's all we need. So, for example, Obio factory, na 8 hours. Ekotama factory snippy 5 o'clock no why then. What? It is a company no orders order satisfied to foreign aina. You the option the next shift no wabena wabeye. So, if the state has been able to give the facilitation why your model where you're shipping the BBI accurate. Security na the lighting system na correct. Eja say an powerful weapon 5 then a binus akosodo from 5 o'clock maybe to 2 o'clock. Ne binus ako say minimum ground 2 shifts. Say production would have taken 2 months. It will be reduced by half. Not so. Again, if we're saying that agro processing Tinkofa kafa a benazebogu factory or a perishable goods, right? So if we decide there, bensu oil, 1 year 24 hours, a ben oboprawa. So you are increasing productivity, generating employment, and effective utilization of resources. Because, say, so can you, and if electricity bill by them, it is it decided that per day 24 hours now. One of the facilitations in there, or more a special tariff, so that if you are operating there, So this should not have been a political issue at all. It's a purely economic policy. Everybody that has spoken on it, apart from Mijafu, Sumpananker, on the penna, us there, where you go to Choba, unfortunately, I can be Jin Fufu to know. She's your friend, I friend Baba Choba, because such a policy, that's a payment, then Tassi, that's a Choba Fupo, Babo. Indication for full-time campaigning, signing the Choba and internet or Wabinum. That is not what we are talking about. That is not what Ghana is talking about. So every 40-year development plan now, it is in it. So it is that 40-year development plan. There, so money bokonenima, and now what they increase productivity and production. No matter business market is in your market, demand market. You are members of the ECOWAS. I don't go there. They are going to free trade. Right? Is that at the market?
Because free zones obribia besinko. No we say na minimum say yetumi kura yetumi ye pam Lacoste kura fi Ghana e de ko US.
Yes.
Minimum da say ye pam Lacoste e de free Ghana ha e ko US. Because na mko hu say Ghana ye niema pa. But ye nka. Enti ehon so bo no numu a no mapon. Na because factory nipa gu factory ho na eye adwuma no. Eye me nwanwa ye pam Lacoste polo shirt ye pam free Ghana ha e de ko US.
Eja problem na wonya kola na nko uhutama GTMC. Chief so GTMC. Anapa no about 4,000 workers kwa. Na wi no so 4,000 workers eko. Nti say you see a free SHS. Improve human quality. And I'm going to be. What we use to do number. What case? One district, one factory, and I'm more young. So if it true and indeed the one district, one factory is available there, why are you not then saying, oh, we can even link this policy to a one district, one factory? Why? Rather than just take up your mind, oh, application for cry for 24 hours, trouble for cry. This policy must not be an NDC policy. This policy must not be an MPP policy. This policy must be a national policy for national development. That's my take on it.
Me that's it. Ben,
yeah.
Sans say 24-hour economy. Who send buy no. A man for a boy up can want someone and Yajuma for so any so social media there what they call. I'm a pay every day since so I do baby or say or that. I do baby so say for so any so. And who said bibli. Mammy tell us why you tell on a young to us.
Comrade, yes, sir. I think that my knee jiba say yeah political discourse no I bear more of issues, right? Say kasa entry no ya kwachiri ama neno the development part no ye nyina yemfa adwea ye betimi dia man ni yi na ohwe ye data na unemployment issue, a big issue which can even lead to some security implications. Utie binuma ye mabundo do anya adwumanye binum ko to almost 46% of our youth not getting work to do. Nti so ko 2024 I think both MPP and NDC or somebody policy ebe assure and ebe inspire some hope in the mabuno in terms of some many adwumanye. NDC de ne aba 24-hour economy. Na me who omo policy pledge ya a very complex multidisciplinary than say the yehuno no. Ya yehuno say a choba ne omo ye adwuma anajo but the whole framework now about out is here now. This I'm just looking at it. Okay. A very complex multidisciplinary saying policy no aba no. And this policy no was saying interrogating the feasibility of it. But here me kese in most of these policy propositions are parties meaning the source of funding for this implementation of these policies. And I think that in the coming days, Kamani say NDC as a party, a bit to make sure how they are good because it is a very complex, which needs certain critical infrastructure to push it across. At the same time, we have critical infrastructure to push this particular policy across. No, now also with taxes, right? Also kind of subsidized tariffs for companies to be on the say your public institutions and so on. Now also increasing compensation for Omua because it is a DVLA passport and other public institutions. No, I was say more now what it means is that compensation, you have to employ many people to operate that night shift, which means wages be cost in that level. We in free you have to create certain institutions, new institutions, to take care of this whole framework or the economy. We in free now you have to even look at the educational system because a policy a is how we do business in Ghana, which is the philosophy behind industry or business in Ghana. No, now so person the philosophy behind the industry and so on. It was say go through your education. So enye adeketwa na ehunu sa no, and I think it is a good policy, but is say ebeyi anase ne fapem no egina how we are going to mobilize resources to implement it and implement it well. The America, the key thing is resource mobilization. In 2016, we mentioned free SHS, which is a good policy. You have two free SHS, but ne. I talk about now we have a school. Or more was BC by Oko school. I think almost be 4th December. So 16 no I'm we were promised say anka double track no will end in I think 2 years because government said say or really out certain infrastructure, but double track that's so cost. They say SS crowd you same yet it is losing its quality. So it's good to promise, but the major thing are stakeholders, all parties. And was say how we are going to fund this project or this policy, because to me very complex and very ambitious. And if yet me fund this particular project, the growth now, your growth now, I think 1.5, which is likely to go 2 point something next year. If this 24 hours is implemented well, you better running the growth like Chinese growth, the Indian growth, which is averagely about 6% per annum in the last 5 years. See it me really out as and the more you are growing, your per capita is growing, you are reducing poverty and all the other factors. How are we going to fund this complex and ambitious project? And if you get the funding right, this is one of the best policies a particular party has brought out.
I see. That's it. Honorable Wilkinson Swabakansa, Honorable Kwaba. Honorable ye Gan West Abankrachi. Amasamani in Potemu. Aha. Yeah, 24 hour. And your papa order that any ya deba more to be found and ye
being the academic, said His Excellency kind midday. So I'll start the conversation from a very interesting. I think 2 years ago, me a course it was a Wheeler course, and I came by a paper that says you can measure economic output by luminosity. So Oshe. Until you take satellite images of Krobia senior Nkania, how senior Nkania tier 1 journal. You can use it as a proxy to measure GDP and economic growth. Yeah. That was a very interesting paper. This is about 2 years ago. It evolved, and Obia Ohebia Google and read around how Nkania Semtia Najo, or what we call night luminosity or nighttime light, is a proxy for economic growth. Into getting Osha or Maya a year well developed that it appears it is active at night, or it has at least a bright luminosity at night, and the brighter and I say Nkania no eshrempa anajoa. Not just say they are still they have an active nightlife in a way that economic growth is high. Now, when I heard the NDC policy for the first time, I thought it was whoever started the conversation in their caucus deserves some accolades, because even in developmental economic, and I say using luminosity as a way of measuring GDP, it's very new conversations in the economic, and I say but nipa bebree susu say we need GDP data, satellite images now here senior chromosity na joa, you can clearly tell in punto any senior chronicity and things around that. And so the first thing I want to say is that the thinking around bringing it, say, how do we get an active ninth? No, we must applaud that in the first place. Indeed, His Excellency the caucus, I think that bringing the conversation up is worth having.
Thank you.
Having acknowledged that, the big question is, what does it take to have an active luminous night? The conversations around security in our part is the biggest part. In order to have, because we are probably the police to find a car, the premise of that night economy will be based primarily on security. So the real questions is, and which means you're going to increase police force. If your budget is already strained on public purse in terms of wages and salary, then the question is, how are you going to fund it? But of course, I can hear the NDC would say there are a lot of spendings in this government that is probably not useful. In Teomokatia, they'll get enough to build those different lines. But the conversation is that this policy, I think primarily their intention Abema private sector would lead in moving the shifts on a 3-cycle. Last week I was having a conversation with somebody, and Ameka said, I worked with UT Bank, not bank Nepal 7, and between 5 and at the time, Granada Bank small 4:30. Between 4:30 and 7, no, the volume of business the bank would write between that 3 hours, no, would be better than bank or pawn 4. And so, if even this policy can help move it to a 2 shifts instead of the economy closing at 5, if even we can move it to an 8. So you probably can double your productivity, because instead of 8 to 5 you can get 8 to 9, which is 2 shifts, and if you can enforce productivity on each of the shifts, double productivity.
And productivity leads to what?
Of course, GDP growth and
profitability,
and all the antecedents is granted. The baseline is whatever this is, the agenda is to make Ghana an active, luminous city, because you say Omaya active anankani asem anase ejuma wo ho anajono omo sika asem ko animu inti say yetimi ma omai no a movie from say about 5 and 9 nyina ye dimirika na ekofie ni akoda no. Can we build a plan but the intricacies of that, at least from the public sector, it's a real daunting conversation. First, are you going to come to an hourly wage system? Into your public service, salary single spine, hourly wage, into your 4 hours, now o'clock, are we going to measure productivity clearly and pay people by that? If we can do that restructure, which are bold decisions, I don't think the politician has that courage to do in the public service because of the 4-year cycle. But if they can have the courage to say, we're going to measure productivity, we're cutting time and measuring people and paying by an hourly wage, and restructure public service in that light, and can this policy, if they can implement it like that, will be probably one of the most transformational Ghana has ever seen. But I don't think that any politician has the courage to do that because of the cycles of 4 years in government. if you move from there on the purely private sector side, I think Zabaomia is in part right to say if you go to hotels work 24/7, some institutions work 24/7, and so I think that we laugh say he's reduced it to chop bar, but there is some merit in saying say there is evidence that some people are already working 24 hours, so that is granted. But in this holistic view, so private sector will now begin to think say now can Lacoste,
yeah.
how can they be enabled say instead say nipa year juma 8 to 5 no omo wait to create 3 shifts now omo we increase omo productivity by 3 times because obi per 5 obi baba 5 na say nurse for ejuma ye nyina ebe ko shift and then one opa ochina we wia ade cha we anwumre say yetimi ye ne sa to get the private sector to move actively, and I say a bigger part to move actively, I think it will be a good thing. It's still early days, but I like the fact that NDC is now leading the conversation into 2024 with this 24-hour economy, and it's good for them. But it's still very early days. Let's interrogate the numbers carefully.
Okay.
But Obi Obeka say it's not a good policy or it's not a good policy conversation from a pure economic side, no. But if you begin to understand and now statistical think I think it's a good conversation. But the real question is, from the public sector, what it would take to do it in the public sector. But if you take from the public sector side and you bring it to the private sector, then I will enable that conversation. If we can have it and do that, in my view, so movie crowd by 8 hours extra. Now, amount for mobile juma in principle, you can actually double your productivity.
Okay, and that's it. We did not what can say? So 24-hour economy, you know. A binom can say I was a shake mo party no. I was mo party na shake mo party no. Sana hunu no.
That's it. And a baby chair and penny for. Na metia wo mo hwe metia me brother sia.
I'm on my way.
You me uncle dear. Me no one. No, as a shaky MPP. A shaky MPP party. Oh.
Okay.
I went to reach shaky MPP party. We senior bedroom penny for mocking. Ye can't assemble senior bear near bit me aboa Ghana in future. That's what we are looking for. But 24-hour economy no. Maybe na me ti say na bibi because we say yes ba omi aka say e wo hoda dana enye yi enye si. Ya ko answer na be 24-hour economy no before the meda NDC for ase. Say omaboa ye na omaji atum say sa free SHS na e ba ye no. Ama yetimi produce more student and then omo pay adwuma ye da chi a omo betima ye 24-hour economy because any penny one ka 24-hour economy into me emaso but through free SHS no me say nipa adoso omo hu say mfaso also say and then no as I say omo pay bibia kwan bi omo faso a nipa betima anya adwuma ye in future nti the woman say so magi atum and they have accepted say sa na free education omo kan say anya adwuma emaso enye papa enye bibia no eno magi atum because ene wo hwe ye schools na classrooms na nanka enipa be 50 na tenemo na bi be 75 80 o ma doso wo hwe ye statistics wo hwe me nkura me municipality a every year bia no ye increase no every year bia increase number of students a ami omocho exams e wo honom nti enu hu di hu adan say afede o magi atum na me ba so say 24-hour economy ni say you can see your production na fine your comments and comments do be no obetia edwadie o produce so a na anka we 20 mako 20 every month na say now we decide say obeye 40 a but we 40 ni wie na say ni tono so be kosa anso dia na je say production no ɛyɛ adwuma nti ɛno deɛ ɛnhyɛ da nyɛ nwanwa biara but yakoba deɛ meka ne sɛ 24-hour economy no sɛneɛ yɛdi kankan yɛ no ɛno mo bebree wɔ hɔ a ɛwɔ hɔ dada yankasa yɛdi yɛni hu sɛ woyɛ 24-hour economy ɔmo yi no ɔmo de abɛn nyinaa no ɛyɛ mfiafia ho ɛno ɔmo bi ne nanam ho saa a yɛ nyinaa yɛ hu sɛ light ni hɔ na wuni light na ɔka so yɛ 24-hour economy a ɔbɛyɛ no wayɛ nti ɛdɔmasi sɛ ɔmo agye atum sɛ NPP abɔ ne ho mmɔden ama light ayɛ stable a ɛno nti na ebɛtumi aboa in the near future no 24-hour economy ebɛtumi ayɛ adwuma because sɛ yɛka sɛ yɛbɛyɛ adwuma anadwo no edu baabi ne sɛ anadwo no nyinaa ne yɛda so mu but yɛtumi nya light ne yɛde yɛ adwuma a adan sɛ mewɔ anuanom a wɔbɛyɛ adwuma 24-hour economy no bi obi wɔ a ɔkɔ Ecobank na wɔpɔn adwuma a obetumi aba UTV anaasɛ obetumi akɔ ebia Vaco ana other company in the midnight ebia ɔwɔ short time bi obetumi ayɛ adwuma ebia 6 hours bi aka ne ɔyɛ no ho a you can do it and there me hu ni sɛ bɔne bia wɔ but ebe depend sɛneɛ adeɛ no yɛbɛyɛ nafa because companies a mebɔ ɔmo di nyinaa koraa no as at now ɔmo yɛ adwuma 24-hour economy ɔmo yɛ adwuma companies sɛ Vaco other companies
Vaco yɛ adwuma
ɔmo yɛ adwuma in the night ɔmo yɛ adwuma
Vaco
ɔmo yɛ adwuma 2 shifts na ɔmo 2 shifts na ɔmo yɛ no from morning to evening na ebinom so aba efi numero me say 7 or 8 na ɔmo so apɔn nti ɔmo yɛ adwuma Liver Brothers companies bebree hɔ ɔmo yɛ adwuma Coca-Cola ɔmo nyinaa yɛ adwuma eti ɛno nom deɛ sɛ 3 shifts na me nya hu yɛ sɛ ebi kɔ from anopa 4 na ebi ɔmo apɔn 2 na ebi aba 2 na ɔmo apɔn 9 na ebi nso aba 9 which the hotels are doing that one ɛno ne deɛ wɔ hɔ ɔmo no ɔmo kɔ 3 shifts
yɛhwɛ yɛ adwene mu no sɛ is it this hospitality industry no ho asɛm na ebi ɔmo ɛka anaasɛ real production baby a yɛyɛ nneɛma ama nneɛma no bi akɔ amanɔne yɛyɛ nneɛma na mɛnatumi ada so ɛna mede Lacoste yɛ example yi mekoduru hɔ no I was shocked sɛ wohwɛ Ghana for pa egu a nipa wɔn a etwitwa materials wɔn a ɛpam ɔpam Lacoste paa wɔn a package wɔn a ɛhyehyɛ ɛde kɔ US nti is it economy a ɛyɛ production ho asɛm na wɔn ka anaasɛ yɛ service one asɛm na wɔn
oh ɛyɛ kɔmanda sɛ service in suma production service ti sɛ hospitality is in nia ɔmo suma production because ɔmo ni hɔ a ɛnɔma ntumi nkɔ so sa they are serving but the production side is there nea wɔn ka no ɛyɛ kɔmanda yɛ wɔ nɔɔma bebree a yɛde kɔ amanoni a as I speak ɔmo yɛ ho adwuma dada bebree kwa ɛwɔ hɔ but ɛyɛ kɔmanda wɔn sɛ nea yɛka no yɛka national interest nti sɛ yɛka national interest a mimi deɛ me si so ɔyɛ ɔmo agenda ɔyɛ ɔmo policy a ɔmo pɛ sɛ ɔmo di ba no yɛda nyamia sɛ this time around ɔmo nya policy baako a ɔmo pɛ sɛ ɔmo di ba around na ayɛ debate ɛwɔ system no ma wodu baabi a wote trɔtrɔ mu kora nkɔfoɔ ka nkɔfoɔ nte aseɛ nti yɛda nyamia sɛ yɛaka sɛ NDC fo mo di ha na ɔmo fa one policy mmra na ɔmo di aba this is a good move now because sɛ ne ɛbɛyɛ saa ɛnyɛ one political party sɛ de bia ɔsɔre a ɔde policies bɛba saa no obi ako atia saa to the end but now no a NDC for the 24-hour economy ba yɛ a yɛka ho asɛm sisi yɛ so mo yawo awum ɔmo sɛ ne ɔmo feel it it's like asɛm na ɔmaka no ɔmo tu obi tu ɔmo pɛ sɛ ɔmo yi etu ɔboba no fi nipa no dabi asɛm ne nyinaa ne sɛ wo di aba me bisa question nti question na me bisa wo no ɛno na ɛso wɔn answer me question no I go say last week or the last 2 weeks trade minister Eddie he be parliament he say go for mo kra no madiba
ye be di hu komo pa
na me ka be si asem so ho ye ho no mo bebre a ye production work mo as we speak Abdul so saying ne ese ye nya be bi say TV ni sa no nyina o mo ye bebre work mo a nkrofo so ka bi di ba
Abdul so chen ye hwehwe de ade nti na yesan ekraba
oh say the oka normal enya America krakra obi kra normal ko say ne di ba ye ko America no so mo odua no mo di wo ho but ye di ba ye fi ha ne ye di ko ye di bode e fi ha ana so mo di bode be fi Spain no mo di aba nti American country bi eni ho a wo hia obi mo a country bi ahi obi more but see your production no na ye wie say your producing zone wie na say enipa beto no say ne ye pen say ekodia because we na si wona say onipa so anto a factory na nkasa ne bedu ba mi no so be break it down because or your 3 shift so twa mu nyina ka salary so be 1,000 and first na ka bia no 2 shift say no 1,000 asa be ka ho nti ni productivity no e be koso but say demand no nkofo be demand no e bia be less therefore e be be say ya adwuma no
bibia na ye de ho be wuram 24-hour service economy no
say nti e ka say
fake ni e bibia wa
say so far the mo can na production production nti say production e na me ka say ye wie a saa na ye say ye to no goods and services demand and supply say you say ade na ya ye no nkofo to fine ye say de be ko amanone fine good say ye wie na betimi de akwa e good that time ni enya light ya di edwuma
mate
ni enya enipa nso a omako school so dem brother kan ye education is very key to the society enti MPP atimi aboa amenne se first no nipa 10 eko school and nipa 50 eko school amenne no nipa bebuso a omo nyina asua bibia ese se omutimi eye adwuma a di production bi be ba system no nti ehia sa no mani nyina
okay we can same be eno na me de beto aso na ye di sankomo niema mako 22 and I think yes 22 and also for share adwede hu sam so ra keti hamon e de akọ parliament e bi ye emo rice e bi eye yemuade nantwie muade ne sa
afinu waka ne ye
yemuade nantwie yemuade ene ekọ yemuade. I remember when I was in Sunyane now opening ba ko no Sunyane eco store Kwajasco, I think the late Kwajasco na okra ekọ yemuade efri India edeba eye yemuade nti eno ka ho ana fe poultry enkokọ ene ntakrabo ahodo a eno so yedeba animal
ekọ no temu ekọ ne yede abo
ekọ ye buffalo
bull buffalo
ekọ eye buffalo ne yemuade na de papa me na me ye agent
India phone ndi no mo da so bra o
but me think say obi ko market no koto sa yemuade bi o
na Kwajasco na krafi India ba na krafi and afi margarine eka ho fruit juice eka ho soft drink eka ho mineral water eka ho noodles any say sa macaroni Italia no na no so ka ho ceramic tiles eka ho corrugated paper and afi paper board and also ka ho mosquito coil and an insecticide and so ka ho soap and detergents and also ka ho motor cars e ka ho iron and steel e ka ho cement ka ho bi plastic and plastic products e ka ho bi fish nsumunam ka ho bi sugar esichire e ka ho bi clothing and biscuit crack ka ho and a canned tomato paste and I said tomatoes are canned tomatoes and also ka ho sanya me bubu aso makoma kwadu no mienu yi ben mama chef fenfru so
yeah
o kenkan a de di kan so unun say enam ne kwan mu
da
na fe yahwe ansa kora ansa na obi betumi akrasa niama no esisa ho de ne befam esisa nipa no ko apply to the trade ministry na committee a trade ministry no ebete no ebe veti onipa no na application no na so mo veti wi a obisa say hwan na ka say niama no fabra onipa no se fabra no why ready so buy a water he for the company na ekwa niama no ehye chiri sika mo de ekokoto niama no munya wo he ene niama hodo bebre mama sa policy uhun ni say
ejakumra but that be a pesamical foundation of every policy. What is the objective of this policy? Like the objective you're going to do. And I want to believe, say, be a butaye na itachi and say a buying episode protect local industries. But in the protection of local industries, it was so started the production base of and the capacity of these local industries to meet the demands of your people. One, they say, be na butaye itachi no a kind of import substitution butaye. Because they say Ghana no the capacity to produce mineral water. Right? Special other mineral water. Ghana has the capacity to produce. So if Ghana has the capacity to produce mineral water, I didn't think I was a TRCMA, yedi mineral water free Finland, and I say even Netherlands, Ediba Kruma. Wow, because Mati said, Nsubi Kruma, some V name be like that. You import to Ediba Kruma. Whilst Ghana has the capacity, honor many policy in the because we need to protect our local industries in terms of generating or producing mineral water, because mineral water ni to produce okroma. Now we free fish. You say restricting importation, no? Do we have the capacity? The critical question we see beside when they say, do we have the capacity? Because if we do not have the capacity, no, we start creating a market distortion. The market will fail. Because the moment we protect, no, so we need capacity no bit to meet the demand now. Or economic better say price in the cost. And a price no cost so the consumers na woman for na home better on. So be so fish, do you have the capacity? And I think that for fish we don't have the capacity. So products need be another items, the commodity need be your capacity many ministry need ya drain because they are nyane some protect your economy no from some of these trade liberalizations and the unemployment increasing because in terms of cost of production, won't even find the cost of production in Ghana at the better to the cost of production in China or the cost of production in US because the Chinese and the US are enjoying what they call economies of scale. They have grown to a level some level no more doing no sometimes crown interest crown airful utility airful or maybe BIF apart from maybe wages and a neighbor den kakra. Into onu Ghana nini compete or competitive advantage more than you. Into Ghana no to sustain your employment and also to sustain your businesses and also sustain growth no I was say to protect other economies. And you can read this book. I mean say ambassador there. He says let's be read that. There's this South Korean outreach book with the Good Samaritan. That is what the South Koreans did. They needed to protect their economy. And today, South Korea no a developed economy. Say Ghana so be developed we have liberalized our economy too much. Right? There's too much of a liberalization of the economy. We need to protect certain part of the economy for local producers to also thrive. Now, in protecting your local economy must also be a transition. So we protect your local economy. And yes, sorry, also made banner better, tabua better. So because the moment our tabua so for a subsequent year, no, we are pushing some people in that particular aspect of the industry. No, you are pushing them out. You are kicking them. So you give them a time frame. Says time when they mamo say yatima chiremoha. This special eyes led by Despite Media or maybe Despite group of companies. Omo produces special eyes. Say open special eyes at all. Okay, only Switzerland nibi and Finland nibi ashe one for bimrel. But in 5 years time or in 3 years time, you and TRCM import to go to special as a producer to use their water in any functions you are doing. We any free was a fisher. We import to free her. Name in this transition period, no, you chill the producer of this particular fish, consumers. So you give them that period to be able to readjust to the local market. But your policy where you have more period of readjustment. You see next year, you are paying my own farmer. Now, you are what kind of sounds where you are distorting the market, and they will lead to certain agitations. And I think I've seen more second-hand clothes or more agitated. Say yen tiasi.
Last week, many fruit and beverages for Guta for automobile woman krakra kasi be
Yeah.
abuso kanfo ene ye hye ofi ha kame so mu nyina so akasa de tia
because one more transition, one more kwanya ombefa so e dey free way mu, and maybe you didn't even engage them well. And I think this bill did not do that, or even the sponsors of this bill. No, you ought to have engaged the various stakeholders, get their buy-in before sending it to Parliament. But bill we no engage them, and if you don't engage them, almost someone said that is their source of livelihood. That is what they depend on. It is why engage them here. They will be back and forth. In its entirety, I think that some aspects, you will say protect the economy, but a buying Emma transition, no. And very smooth and get the buy-ins of everybody. You never support too, because at the end of the day, unemployment at 13. Ebi kura nyini. Me no kase esi aja kom no kase unemployment. Ohun se minu enjini. Obi kase unemployment 13 no. Obi kase that 13 the obo. Obi am message say no. Unemployment should be about 50%.
I agree.
Actually, and the youth should be about 76%. That no big catch them says here. So if you want to create jobs for your people, you must protect the economy. And everyone, even now we are Trump grabbing the US. Trump protected his steel industry and other industries from the Chinese. Even the Chinese themselves, they protect, even Europeans, when they want to kick out Africans out of the market, we have something called phytosanitary conditions. On kase mean due product, but a vegetable crop free hair, no should have the health conditions, hygienic conditions, and they are not standard. They are not what? We as Africans must also begin to protect our economy for some of our productive entrepreneurs to strive well.
Okay. Me dance. Yeah. What's here?
I have to leave by 10:30.
So okay. And my meeting wa adwin kire wo. Okay. My meeting wa adwin kire. So policy what is it going to achieve? And then for so ni benya wo so. Na yen hwe se onipa no krampo angi permit no. Na se e bia yes sense impacho. Se onipa no angi permit no kra na anas wan fan hihye no so kra na wan kra na according to emre yi no ye bebo ne ka anas ye be jeli no kra so e de aka ho wo so policy wa ken ka hwe mu atie mu hu ne sen
that's it. And yeah, so sorry.
Oh, I
have to have a be osameko. The two topics no.
Okay. Okay.
You can chidama mo fa seriken. Say the Bible offer man for one. You have to consult them. That's what we call the stakeholder engagement. Yeah, I believe that in all your economic fundamentals, wherever you find it, stakeholder engagement is very, very important. Because when there's no stakeholder engagement and acceptance, whatever you do, you hit a block and have to come back. It is more time consuming. I think Katie Amond needs to settle in his office. He needs to settle in his office. The office on your Biala office. On your Biala office. My belief is that Okoto Buzia time, anyway, trade liberalization program, Buzia program, the then Minister of Richard Ibusuan Edom Kwasi. He brought this thing, import duties, eventually electric coup d'etat. One of the reasons why I champion here Kalabule, electric coup d'etat. Listen, you have a country that, out of your own policy, liberalized economy. These people, they say they are liberal economists, isn't it? Out of your own, you have created situations like what we are having now. For example, you have joined many trade organizations in the world. That does not allow protectionism. Even though in a limited form you can do it. And if you are so brazen like Nigeria, you can do it. But before you do that, you should have prepared your economy. So for example, if you know the consumers with the 300,000 tons of rice in a month, okay, by projection, I am going to produce or even store, not hoarding, store 3 years value or quantity of rice for me in warehouse. Then we start an aggressive plantation of rice. There, the rice, almost in 3 months and 3 years. The 3 years, you know, yes, son, young fat, the manager of no year, won't put bricks. So at the 3rd year, then you said no, nobody can import rice. And by limitation. Nah, because immediately you say I've banned it, you are affecting Thailand, China, who are your trade partners, and they can retaliate in a very hard way. Says you're the Chinese vocal. They say Chinese vocal, okay, from tomorrow we're drawing our monies and all investments. What are you going to do? So preparation is very, very important in those things. Certainly there are some of the items within 2 years we should be able to do it.
But could be a modia working. One interesting thing people say, Oko Aveme rice project na yanya new investors, Crisport farms. Omakoje hunyina aveme. Very soon on start production and yasam kutwakra.
Yes, I also know the Zoom Lion is also into production. National Service is also in production. So you quantify all of this. In the culture parliament, by our policies they are implementing, we are going to have X amount of rice next year, right? And therefore, we are capable of banning rice import. I mean, right? But if you don't do that, I am learning from you for the first time, and I'm sure your cousin in Ukrum,
last week now, call for introduction and any on engagement. Introduce some much Ghana ni Crisport Farms, Crisport Farms Limited.
Yeah, what I'm saying is that if you don't engage, you create a problem. Now, look at the major resistance. Obroni Wufu, for example, right? Obroni Wufu. 2/3 of Ghanaians now depend on that market. So, Bangladesh, in the world banned foreign used clothes like Ametase, because there's a policy there. We may manufacture most of the Lacoste Nadia saying Bangladesh. On Eboko and then Bayer 4 Abusana Kasakase, tell of Gutin Ugo. But we did not take advantage of the agua. President Kufoka for agua buying. How many of them? Until now, we did for the free zones, and it's happening there. So preparation is very, very important. But you cannot tell me that you are banning importation of cars. Cars, we're gonna have. It's not possible. Because Jacob now, Great Wilkinson now always got a brand new car. But most Ghanaians loans are what don't car. Those in the public service. On yes, Sika waiting that talk a Suzuki Coupe.
But did they use that money for used cars? Some say, or more, more coins say, Okoji loan now, you better use car.
Have you worked in the public service before?
Some of the institutions, you know.
Like what?
She said, me institutions, they are local government.
How much?
A individual now say,
no, company, local government, Nankasa.
What is the value of the loans? What am I public servant for car? What is the cost of a vehicle today on the market? And I'm saying that many people depend on used vehicles, right? Because of its pricing. Now you come to the second-hand clothing. It's engaging about 5 million people. 5 million. And then if you say all of a sudden they should not import them, that's where we are going to have a problem. I agree with my nephew there. There shouldn't be wholesale implementation of an idea. These people, when they bring an idea and people criticize it, then they say, Small question. Did anybody tell you that without free SHS, Ghanaians will not have been educated? Did anybody say that? So, but did you hear that?
The number of just it will be less.
Look, next week we are coming here. Tell me the difference between JSS in free SHS in enrollment. In 2017 and enrollment now, you find out it's less than 3%. You find out the increase is about 3%. So, if a policy comes and we are talking about it, last week I told you, the free SHS concept as a policy was started at the Kunfi, another country, a Kunfi. And you know that. Now, Sumpa, the 24-hour economy, we don't say it's an event. It's a process. And then with minds like you looking at the processing, so by your suggestion, we can improve it. Because we ultimately know that is what we need as a country, not so. Yeah. That's what we need. So shooting it down is not an option. It's not an option whatsoever. But as the policy rolls out, with minds as sharp as yours, you can improve it, right? And we also don't say that compulsory. And you're compulsory because I started people like the compulsory pump. You collapse the system. For us as a government, as a country, we need to be thinking not on 4-year cycles. We should think about long term.
I agree.
The book that you are referring to, my brother, the book that you are referring to was not looking at 4-year cycle. It was looking at a long time. In 20 years, Ghana, what should Ghana look like? We should have 400,000 doctors, right? We should have civil engineers, this number. You quantify the objectives and said, okay, for that reason, maintain my university on subjects NIBI, right? Or this specific institution should give me engineers. This specific institution should give me doctors. That is the basis of NDC's development agenda. And let me give you just 2 examples. In anticipation of this 24-hour economy, it was in our manifesto. Have you seen it? It was in our 2020 manifesto. And it's also in the National Development Plan. So we decided that, look, energy should not be our problem when we want to implement that. So we brought in a lot of energy, which you call excess capacity. You call it excess. That's why we did it. You know why we built the Kumasi market, Kumasi Central Market? Kumasi Togo, near there. It is in our anticipation to create Kumasi as the commercial capital. Now it's just we direct our commerce because Accra is choked. Do you know why we built the Tamale Airport? It's not for Hajj alone. We built the Tamale Airport because from Tamale to UK is shorter. From Tamale to Saudi is shorter. From Tamale to any other part is shorter than Accra. Apart from South Africa. So if, for example, you have an international airport in Tamale, now you convert it to an export terminal. Excess rice near there now we're exporting. Who use it Tamale? So that's how to develop a country. And you one touch one policies. It's a coordinated policy. Now let me end on the lithium. We, the people of Central Region, will resist fiercely that agreement, and we have started the moves. Because you know, it was 2 young people from the Central that signed a contract 1879 about the gold in Obuasi. And for 100 years, they have mined as if we have not learned. And then come now. Yankopana man gold. Yaton. Yankopana man oil. The diet is ginger. Now they are giving us lithium. What stopped us from building the lithium factory in Ghana? Because now the world is moving from fuels to what? Lithium. A car that was Tiger battery or Tiger battery. It collapsed because they didn't have raw materials. Now we have lithium in Ghana. You are sending it to Australia just because you can confuse Ghanaians. Oh, we have increased the Ghana government interest from 10% to 13%. We don't accept that. And Abu Jinako, is that Abu Jinako?
Yes, Samuel Abu Jinako.
Sami, rest assured, Central Region Post, rest assured, that will be the first policy, that contract we shall abrogate when we come to power. Because we believe that that is inimical to the people of Ghana.
But the Dr. Steve Batia do come and then answer. Ama maybe say I for share no. Ama ne kase mi kire me. Na ke ne be kasa ne ba say o tu kwan bi ntino. obobo Ghana companies mako 5 din a omo ye capable say omo tumi to lithium no
sure
obo mako enum.
This contract was not even advertised. Yet the answer was signing. And like if you listen to her lordship say it did not even go to parliament for ratification, which is also a violation of the constitution.
It should.
It should.
It should.
You just can't sign an agreement and give out our resources like that. So I will end because I have somewhere to go. But I'm saying that one, there should be a critical review of KT Hamon's effort. I guess we'll go back to the Kalabule days.
Okay. When I say your sense is appearly Nenuma Dawson. Enti obu de ketebu kakra na wagya ho akọ na de aka nyina so no ye behwe na ya ka kire no ye de ho adwuma ye behwe ne adi ho dwuma na ayi yourself honorable
yes boss
policy ya yes ye dey bai utia ma me free ya me say metumi also conditions of import permit. An import permit granted under this regulation shall state 1. The terms and conditions under which the import permit is granted.
Yes, I was referring to 6 activities. I want my nephew to read.
Okay, me person me can catch on abonoti. Or say condition of import permit. A. The terms and conditions under which the import permit is granted. B. The name of the import permit holder. C. The quantity of selected strategic products approved for import. And D. The period of validity of the import permit. Now, so share or say an import permit granted under this regulation is valid for a period of 1 year and may be renewed. Now, 3 no say import permit holder shall not use an import permit for purpose other than the purpose of which the permit was granted. An import permit holder shall not import a consignment of any selected strategic products contrary to the quantity of the selected strategic products indicated in the import permit. Now, if you renew one, also abamu say you share be renew amount. Why this? Yes.
Honorable KT Amon, or the Nasa Matuja, or the co-parliament. Now, I can't do to some say and co-parliament, but only do the co-parliament. Parliament in Israel, when DC for MPs war, and the war MPP MPs war. They are there to work, and they are there to speak, and they are there to defend the good, Ghana. I come as ma here can see an on say NDC foko hu sa ade we ba ya che onye na o omko hu ya no so oh say ye sa de we ba so dia and e be ya ma 24-hour economy pa na o ma fa chi no mo de 24-hour economy aba o mo say eno ye eno ma na ye kan wasam sisi an nya say abandon no ma say mo bi anka no ma ne famba o mo de co parliament e ko ba ye hwe eno ma bi a ye produce work mu a me brother Ben obedi ho dance say me kura metimi corner ko be kura no ye try say importers nankasa no ombenya partners a no omo aye etuma 1 say obi import bibiti say ebia trouser materials ono nedwuma oya no now no ye try say obenya partner obetimi ne no aye say edwuma no wokro ha so obi import even fruit you normal obetimi adua no wokro mu na ye import di ba agric obetimi nya the partner obetimi na aye edwuma wokro mu ha we no say ye ka say aban na sori preko pe na odi apie ene ye mo obi amane no nkofo nimpa
nkofo be nanim
even gutafo ya sama aye ken oh asam do ba se ne ya na ame ye kano no ubisa obi asam no se yentiye but onipa no or the proposal abeto or the co parliament ene ye nya ye bobo hu ye kan wasem enye when you are being you can say and no more you can say abandon this a baby is a fish because we don't have the capacity. A Greek minister ekasa na no ya ono so e ka bibi say oboa say even say fish a yanka say bi di okromo ano e betima ye ho adwuma. So there is a preparation, there is a normal ya hihia e wo ho a e da ho sisi ya
yenya nyai
but
yenya nyai
but you come wonu so yenya nyai
yen project say uka gutafo asem ni gutafo di nkomo a wo vice chairman e ba fie ha e ma me ne betena boatin betena ha consultation papa bi asumi ankoso o se omo frɛ omo no omo de tu omo nim se we ne yepese ye na mo no se madwen kyerɛ e wo hyehyɛ yepese di ba mu fa mu input na ne yemfa nka ho no eno na no se ehye enim enti stakeholder consultations a ese etumi di adwuma ma na boa ma se di policy bi ba nipa na ye di policy ni form ho no e betumi enya omo so akyerɛ adwene a e be favor omo e be boa omo adwuma na omo ye na boa policy no so no ye nta enye
Jacob,
I want to.
Me there was so can say or see a banu share omo, which is the ministry ni share omo ni omo di nkomo. But ebi omo input omo di beba. They say no, the whole thing about out. Say the NDC for 24-hour economy. Obia omo say MPP for say enya de papa. But I feel no da betuja. Ye bobo mu mini eti so aka ne de. Obi e ka ne de. Say ade no ye de ba ne eye. Ye yi bi fi me edibi hihim. Jacob sa no ma we no ye protect Ghana. Uko America say ya. Bibi a befi other countries ebe ba ho bia no ye wo committee wo ho a institution ankasa wo ho a omo hwe se no ma na e ba no the quality wise e ba kromo no eye anase enye e wo ho even though omo come anim say eye no it doesn't mean say we can start from somewhere. We can start sisi ani abaye sisi e protected private companies omo kromo a omo ye Ghanaians a omo nkaso ye adwuma they say omo produce so omo produce enoma toilet roll omo produce enoma hodo bebre ena rice asema ye kan last week na mo na vungo na ye hu local rice bi oma package no fine pa me ba no me to kakra bi na ajako mo hwese no my rice no a de hia ni say omo betima ye more production na enipa betima ato in the sense mo we e wo ho na the same until the mechanism anke monko nanka mikasa wi ano oko say oni ano meka mtimi mo nidi the same people here no kofa ade hiba say 24-hour economy no eyin for na be adwuma ngofo ni adwuma na eyin for na beto so this is the foundation ushopa MPP rather he's preparing the grounds for 24-hour economy. MPP rather now omo NDC for nas mo kan say as on 24-hour economy no protesting ben on my Ghanaian investors, Ghanaian production companies, Okrumwa. Dear no my more a chess 24-hour economy nuclear moyeno, or more production no be better. No, because your production no be so can no bar, a very ato. Yento, into rise here, I can academy as some way I was say, Ubi Abaji, Corona of touching my work on your first example.
Tubodom
Kitaboy, honeymoon. And Kofobusa Home, have rice pa. Into people say by next year no some companies na be your more rise here say 6 months and na me say ni sir and normally no be yin ho adi into rather no MPP has prepared the grounds for 24-hour economy than even NDC because omo no omo kan say akeke still no confirm kra no mo dia pa honorable KT Amon this some work nyina ne say aboya obo ni yam no me ye de ba etimi be support obu ho ani noman ko ntimi nesi wana enomani bia basa on be yi be wie no be ho mutugu
na nya import duty na board ni tira man yesa
okay say import duty no e ma no ma board dia enu nti na yesa ni pam do tra no ye no kromo anfa ba enantwe ye mu ayeke enantwe ye mu ayeke ukosire na omukum mu ano a ne yem enya bibikutoa say ye ni nantwe pa na say ye fan say na ye 1000 ni ye 10000 nantwe ye mbabu sa abo ni de minimum abo na obo de minimum no
ye nya nyai
na minim ba bi a sa abo no kwa say be nya ni nam ni bi wokro a ye bere iti ja ko be no mo ne o mo
but yamade na ye kra no o se yamade no ye kra free say kra yamade
na be chese sa no mo ye kra de ba e ma ye problems
ane de wo hin
food and transport focus sha no mo be wa nye aya poisonous normally be do aya card ba enye nti yesi answer no be ka no ma no ma committee ni nti ase ni ehu no ma opeso okra untimi nka ntem so okra ayi sugar e be ba na rice ka ho Yes, my young, send the bayer, bet me a check when I check with you. I say butter, never. Meaning I produce some of my biocrimoa. It's a 24-hour economy, rather. No. MPP has prepared the grounds for 24-hour economy. Because to me, a young son of when you for you say a young can for maybe more. Now, then we are going to do the production for people to buy straight away. And Korea, dear Mr. my production will go. And now come market, I only say local rice, because I know insane. The Omuka, Efi, Thailand was saying for the ban. And I mean what? Mas I want to be there. Nobody. Because Nkofo say there's a starch in him, a quality, a say, and also into say you more production. See, I buy more there. And the Nkofo na say Omuka di banoa and no ekuye no. Ah, mobi o so mo no na unu awie na mo na o de hwe fo e ti say tennis ball no. E mo no hwi pop. Na obo say Chinese fo bi. Na ya shede twa ade bi say rubber bi say. Ni twa no mo de gu machine bi na release be pie no na rice. Ah, and so are we eating the plastic rubbers? No. It is now oh kadi abadi ya. And yes, you make sure say baby I can normally edify yes who say oh can normal we aba. The quality wise no baby efi no e ho so ma e ba obi atobi dia on yare. And yes so say kidney problems. Heart problem and normal baby and normal ya kadi ba enye me di blame bema food and transport for say omuma no money nyina ba market e mo bi ato enu na ekum nkrofo sisi an ba wo ka tell say mo unu mo ni wie na mo e mo no won say na wo show for na e say tennis ball nti equipment ben e di check ya ye hu say rice ya dua edua bi ya dua enu na efifi ama rice na rice ya di no. But if you are doing it in Ghana here no comfortable region here twa omutwa rice no enu a farmers day we had a farmers day okuafo ni bi e di mo no de omayi we na chaff na fi hu no omudi ba ho eni de esi ho nankasa who the difference otumu say quality ankasa nti ejakob no mo we na aba ne de say gutafo ni ada mpenifo a mudi dwa mo fi say enye ti say second hand goods ni no second hand ya kan wa se mo etimi yi no mani bi gu wo omo ankasa na omo yi gu wo no mo ntimi nton eno mani bi omo timi yi gu wo omo ankasa bantama na say shoe say den ebi ense internet na ye regularizing eno no ye no nti yesi no be class second hand shoes ni dia ba no ma ye hu ade na wo kra no na committee no endi hu adante no mo satisfy man we say betimi dia ba yankasa ye twem yesi wo betimi dia ba but no man na wo di ba no there should be standard something. It should be a normal hote. I bet me a boa Ghana, your head. What did you? We shampoo one, yes, we shampoo one. What do a chrome unamwa no shoe? Just as well a 12 year old. And yes, I know many yeka. You are about to do a chrome. I mean, what because you've been a diba. You go out now, who the chef with him a diba 1 hour. No, we say you see what. And Nania, who want the credit idea. But on say better no wo ba akoto omo no omo jashe refrigerator mu a esisi is wodada enti ohu se na tie sa no many na ye se ye nhwe ne yie na ye di ba ade we nya se abandi se ma obi amfa hwe ma wo ye se ye nhwe se nsuo na wo di ba no ye nsu papa Ghana for no mu a omo beto omo e na wo di ba no so no wo die no be more cheaper than Ghana ni die na wa produce no because we yes I ento Ghana for die no and am say wo die na okofa no somehow e be a fake nti Africa nti no wusu to ni cheaper e onu mabu wa ekoto no ye di American ni no de ni din agu hu so woton wo beto a wo de bedu fie sesi a wo yusu no 10 days pa na de no na sei no wa no anka oto papa di ba preko anka ye obi fie ko America wo se to iPhone mami wo se to wo mami wo bisa ye se de se China for no America for mo ye iPhone no a de mo de ba Ghana ha no enye papa ti se ni e wo America ho nti wo de odu America no wo ba at least to iPhone be me na obi aka na obi o se to we be me because all the any papa say ha adenti na the third standard one na omodi ba Ghana and Africa ni ye try say we protect say no we are no because ye bandi importation into no abano anyi. This is the foundation of 24-hour economy.
Yeah, sa policy any niema bata ho no ni impact our economy no so no any dia wo hen wo so wamti wadwe nchena fe yenko lithium so yenko special prosecutor so essence also won some kakra.
I think the honorable is missing some of the things, but I will seek to clarify them. Import restrictions enye nkomofofro even in Ghana no I think His Excellency Sampiali in the 60s and 70s, there were import restrictions in Ghana. Into import restrictions, and young come off from. Me person make kana ye starting commodity ni say import restriction ye wa huro bebre. Ye di kaya ye na tariffs, which is taxes. Into tariffs they say the about import duty now okay. Is a form of import restriction. Into the two everything yama offer baso. Say no ebe prohibited and I say Emma man for enya kukudro because ne bono was sure some of the baba. Your quotas so you say ba men fa 10,000 fa 1,000. Inti man no bet me aka say ya the two to so which are tariffs and duties. And I say you bet me a quotas. Say all the way ba men fa do say. On the way back, men fa do say. But there are also bans and sanctions or embargoes. Say, men fa we mabiem because or minor were self-sufficient. Way into men fa we mabiem. Honorable keeps to be emphasizing the fourth and I say import restriction. You know, the one of the channels which is technical barriers. I think Zemini also can watch what is standards and technical barriers. Into FDA, and now the idea for Europe, say you don't meet the standard. Into a farm bar, it's an import restriction regime. But sebi, the idea to home kakra. Into bridge WTO rules. To so. Creating a technical institution. The America say what do you know? Ebia emwawum anase ye hu ba bia akofa fie nti san say ye hu ba bia akofa fie nti technically meet a certain standard. Now globally technical standards and quality standards barriers is what sophisticated nations are using to restrict. Into a better standards baby and menene ya adwen on all the technical barriers he says. Into a case ebia umiti health standard quality nye mana. I don't think anybody has a question around that. Okay. Into on technical barriers, those ones obia jitum say a dumping na nisuni nye na beha manfo na be yare beba ne sanya mana. Sa kwan so as an import restriction channel obia jitum. The last one, your local content, and Yahoo's in the extractive area 40% and Ghana for those are all import restrictions. But Jacob, now the Ayeka Wasem no is none of these things. The Ayeka Wasem no is to give a discretion to a committee to determine, and I say Yamahu Kwine, say committee being quatanase, no susu say, no kofa nyamabra. Women kofan yamamba, but committee ni here. I think that the chairman for Yamkran is a committee ni here. It is at the minister's sole discretion to determine say Obapineso and our own peneso. Jacob na sebi. Chrome hano ye fa kwan bebre so de yanyama bi. Say in Dukona minister neka so ma wa emram wo ho kwan say ye pene so a he has the power so beka say o ma on fa hwe makoma what the impact will be on abuse and corruption. And I think that nipa bebre o mo kano the bigger question they say why na ye be man ho kwan say who are we going to create, who are we going to stop? Enquire say me party in growth for enquire say afi betua bibi ansa no nya import license. Is it not an avenue so be abusive of or abuse the power, not being found in corruption yana? I think said the real conversations for me is at the height and say that process is not subject to one person's discretion.
I say review of minister no amfa where you know amawa amfa mawa or say review of decision of the minister or say a person who is aggrieved by the refusal of the minister to grant an import permit, renew an import permit, or the suspension or cancellation of import permit by the minister may within 14 days after the receipt of the after the receipt or notification of the decision of the minister apply to the minister in writing for a review of the decision of the minister. It's the minister now on no can say all my permit no obesa kwatwa kwama ono kro no aka so no kransa
review the decision.
I didn't know nipa ne judge wo no anasem
it for me answer the question. I'm even taking it to the ease of doing business. Why build a layer say yema omo fa akranyama? I will come to the merit or otherwise of cranium, that's a separate conversation. But then we build another bureaucracy and I say we see to increase the complexity and I say need things amount for befaniama abakoma. The point is ease of doing business. Say say minister and make a final decision. Minister now review say the court now say judge no one judge. And Mama how can say you write to the same judge to review his decisions and as an Albeko appeal. But I think say an ABA main shed anti but an appellate process and as a quite befa so Saudi minister name yebe redressing. I don't think say it is right to leave it at the ministry. But the point is say minister kaso all mao na 14 days okay no kaso all mao biem. Nasa okasa court cry nasa okwa another board there. That's another when you year 1 year 2 years. What happens to your business in that 1 year or 2 years? I think say the bigger hindrance and nipa bebre akwansidie ba kopa ni say the potential for corruption and abuse because of the sole power and the discretion of the minister. So be determine the onfani amambra and the onfani amamba no. And that question must be answered. I was saying you say question no because said you bet me akata ya ni akasa o Ghana minister bia anya corrupt bia minister we na enye but ya hu bi pen ahun bi pen ti so no mo say abo asrewa oje ne bagwa na yi na ni atonchen nti ya say wo hu bi pen no ye ntena ho e ma na nsibiem. So I think that is the first question. Beja for purposes of import yankofambra na yamfamba some fasoni there who here I think from where I sit I will be intellectually dishonest and I say if I say import restrictions depa it has significant value for your balance of payment and I say usika no kwaya mu draw sitie to the extent say usika no can be regulated significantly through your balance of payment and trade deficit or otherwise. So on for so can be so. But the other point is, say we import, you find say poultry product. Only 5% is produced in Ghana. You import 95% of the value of your chicken. So unrestricted and I say way increasing the difficulty so you better 90% naba. What it means me say akoko ebe shorty and you created this fund 1983. One of the reasons I not amount for na YSQ as an ayatonia mano because na ni packet to be na cover ba and the demand no na intimate demand no. So this policy should be carefully and I would say you're doing who ye now the match our demand pools name your produce wa ha it say ye be wa ha nim kwa do ya fast ye wa ha so that we can even we'll use the technical barriers but not through a committee's discretion yamfa kwan foforo so in order to say Ghana say you produce 5% ABR planning for food and jobs phase 2 you may increase it from 5% to 25%. Inti enkoko no say import 5 billion after you may import 3 billion. And then but also untimi nyasa ababra funding cost 30%. Say monetary policy rate 30%. The oil enkoko okroma no obebo sia percentages saying no the enkoko in order to na koko no be compete with the ekofaba. So until you improve the business context, busia amount for the beye juma ebeko form. Yawoya wahano in terms of quality, in terms of nebono will compete with the obeko kwakofaba no. People of commerce would always find the way out. Into said the area wahane ye na nebono ya. Sebi de odi dwano sebi ono so open faso into obeto de wa no but say okobobo say 30% de dia be ye adwuma ne faso ye say okofa ba mfaso wo so a putting this would only create shortages abama ahoche mum na aba it won't ease businesses ye person ye ton yama no would rather not get yama na wo say ye ton no into the make amana ko say there is some value in seeking to restrict import. Well, those values, no, Sebi, one of our problems, and they say, even yeno, inti, even say, I Sebi, Nimbium, yeni, and Fasoba Brian, and Shada, and Tanasi and Jane, and whom Manin Kosiase, inti yana JJmu. And for so, if we think about it carefully and do it carefully, there are other options beyond a committee, to decide and a minister having the sole discretion.
Okay.
Let's think about other means of import restrictions. But beyond that, you're improving local production, you're improving local financing options, and now you're creating shortages. Ama 83 as I see medase pa we dey you sema ba aduasa adwonu nwotwe but I think say you betumi this basement nunum akeka kasasa na yetumi exhaust the two other issues APC discussion Ben we mention o sense we lithium contract I say e ba ye nheda eni ho nkomo but we dey we obi a we dey akiri wonim se dey sitie ayi for kokotena se emomo kan say contract ni even though o me yabako say mu no se ye ne enwuma kwa kase sensan contract ya ye chefa wo mu no we so chan ni nyina na enso no okwa mo fa so ye no ai say ahita se bi hye akire wo mama mu na ho fan enti no e che say o mo kom na hye bi dwam na ma hye bi dwafo ebobo hu ehwe contract ni mo nsam yi ankasa pa ansa na say e bia ye be pene so ya pene so na afen so ebinu mo kasa me ni Dr. Steve Mantia me yasa no pe ye nyane nankasa o ka kire mi pay ball companies mako 5 o Ghana ha ayefo wo matena se ehunu mo capacity say they are capable of mining the lithium as Ghanaian owned companies anka wo ebetumi ayo ha me de bia na me ko say andenti na ye ma Ghana for enye na bribia ye de kosi bro ni so mami tie wadwen kire wo sa se mo simanum
I think that many Mantia drink. Many doctor lithium contract by in a debate kakra on a platform because men support say you be lazy out here natural resources now to expatriate businesses or expatriate interests. But you see, your politicians now you almost say most of them do not have an ideological standpoint. They don't have the philosophy behind governance. Actually, omo say that do na nim the omoye. That's the truth about it. So, in terms of being governance structure, omo they call most of these negotiations, because of so many philosophical background, ideological background, omo nimu the omoye. They just go and then engage in other things with short-termist mindset. Say bia adwene no me pesika ni sesi a e de ya de intine wo. Minia. Ejo kom na wo hwe ya bakwase mu a kruma ya tu agudie pi right ba agudie no the more yetu no the more ye kwan say the more ye hospitals say the more na anu ye anokra no kolebu dialysis kwa na yedin And I think we needed 4 million Ghana cedis alone. But we've been mining huge mine size in Ghana, but they never free. Yet to a former good year, some I bet say so more good years so cry I found go no so you could to a Benesca. A Jacona Bissau said yes started since 2011. They pote na Ghana bit meeting in Sinibu say found Gusika and a mine side way. Then apart from maybe Ghana Gas Company Limited or Atuabu Gas Processing, they import enable to me because Ninano are draining a short them. It is a ne yanya lithium because of sustainable energy. Among for Sienko EVs, Obeko EVs are electric vehicles are obe here battery into be a tubi. E adefu for naba. Adefu for bansua ya de abutre ene koho yen rashi. Senior minu ya panyini jinapo abu jinapo rashi you know. This is a rushed negotiation. The entire because a rush negotiations based on our experience and dealing with expatriate business no. Yanshida nyang for so be free ya gudie no so. And because of that, other countries just like Ghana, in Latin America, in some parts of Africa no, have started thinking of resource nationalization. Because say you call resource nationalization, na you call leasing, contractual basis, emu bia no kwa oboka. Unya hwim free so. Because if you be catch say on na dey infrastructure, on technology ba, on na dey human resource ba, on na dey BBA ba ntini, sika no dodo na na onya ayemfa ma no. Abra Japade no so ye odia. Into a country like Zambia, they've nationalized their copper. Botswana, the mineral or nationalize it. And Latin America, so enya huge deposits of lithium. Chile, Mexico, Bolivia, omunina air nationalize resources. So more nationalized resources, what they do is that they will not allow an expatriate business to come and take over. They allow their own people to invest in these areas. Many Dr. Mantia say, you see, how much is $250 million? Before started exploration, they started with $16 million. Even the owner of this studio can mobilize $16 million for this exploration. The owner of this company, right, Despite Group, Obituma mobilize. There are a lot of companies in Ghana that can mobilize. I didn't know these companies to mobilize these resources and then mine, and then so that at the end of the day, it's going to be idea. You see, 50-50. Now, around 70 say, power, say this is the best deal. It is not the best deal. In other jurisdictions, they will do service agreement. Exactly.
You do service agreement because you have the resources. $250 million is not any amount I want to be raised as a country. $250 million. Me who be there? I just come. Be another one who be there. Well, can some say they own the hotel who be. But it's not any huge amount that a country called Ghana cannot mobilize, cannot raise. Imagine you establish a company. And I read a nice article from a senior doctor, a PhD holder, I think Adu or something. A nice article on this particular lithium process. Or say, imagine say what create a company, list it on the stock, and say Ghanaians say na yepe, e dia cost atia lithium. Na skana kakruma. We didn't go that option. Imagine say a buying no monocrano, I say through service agreement, you know, Sikano memi obi. Because you know expertise, no. Because of so expertise, no, Sika say no be here, okay, me here 250 million, 250 jilin na. Uye bibiye na so mining we are a good year media. Kokrum.
Mr.
Machoka. That is what the Arabians are doing. And in the 70s, Arabians here and there, Dubai Echo, people saw them as shepherds. No more come nine. Now Obia and Pehoko, but ne Obia Sora Oko Dubai, Obia Sora Oko Saudi Arabia, because of master T air drain. Bayeno, the Biameca, I don't know. Yeah, this you know, say Eddie, you name the na Penu Kromano, said in Faso Boyo, said your how ne Boyo, I don't know. Because Anke Adria. We will have look at the best practices across the globe on this lithium exploration and production. And the best practices are in Latin America.
Mexico for our nationalization, they said they are kind
Chile.
Chile so am dey nisa. Na Mexico kra de abana fa sempompo enwuram na so about 51% share ewo ayinmu.
Yeah, and that is, I think, even one of the parties, and some of these things in the media, no some more. CPP, for example, in the 2020 or 2016 manifesto, even in our oil, not all production sharing. You come here, yeti hey, ya yem for indigenous knowledge. Eja komra. Me say we can do not sorry akrabia one no, but me know the say na me do banchi working tempo. Ado me kwaji asase a me do banchi working tempo. Me do banchi na asase wura no. E ka che me say ye chem enubu ebunu anabusa enum no ono asase ne dia no ofa ne mie no na mafa ne miensa. This is an indigenous knowledge. If we had built our negotiations on some of these things, any mineral resource when you're crying 40%. Because apart from technology, the resource is mine. So also quantify resources. No, I'm bringing my resource. Maybe 40%. To me a call. But our leaders who do not have any political ideology, whether they are leftists, they are rightists, they are center, you don't even know. And because they don't have any political philosophy, they even go into negotiations without a philosophy. The only one say, "Obi disikeba, diskano de bano mi yes kano." Se si ani mani mu yade ayade, nti enyi skano. Na emfa japade ne nche no. And that is what Abu Jinapon did. Ohwe sikano benya ne nne no. Waji awie no, and wo heda achi yesi $4 billion in the contract span. Ye benya about $4 billion. $4 billion no. Bisa ho se Ghana de omu yesen. Oil kura yetu ye de omu yesen. Right? So, I think this is a bad deal. And fortunately, Parliament should not agree to it. Se microphone si kabi no ma invest ya yempe size kan momo. Yempe scano say 60 million because Matisse when I looked at Lithium on my website in there, because can spending all this and I'm spending now, it's not even up to $150 million. I went to their website. I went to my website. Oh, sika almost for first phase, second stage, third stage. The third stage is around, and the capex is around $70 million. And do $150 million. But they are going to take almost $4 billion in the years on Beya Jumai. Nanka wanya Ghana new company, and our Ghanaians on Maba, while still on the stock. Now these are less than $200 million. Nanka scanning in Adi and Yakoton. Penny for the strong. Almost starting green. Now, Jacob, also heard deal no be one. See, we have not also learned from certain experience. Chronocrat is saying, Obuasi. You are too gold, so Obuasi Quanye. Okoya de la or no area no. You too gold no lithium no hormona. We will take a huge square kilometers no. Also allocating only 1% to them. You're allocating only 1% to this particular area. No. Now 1% heading to the people, and that also shows that so the people they must resist. And I'm make a Chile case now. If you read the Chile story, the Chileans, not the government too, the people of Chile resisted some of this agreement and forced the government to nationalize their national resources. But they had no Obati Mankasim area, they don't even care. Obati Obuasi and Fahon, Obian Fahon, and our own Fahua are buying because of so pesika. Contractor. So I'm calling on the people of Mankasim, the people of Ewoya and every area no crossing. Ewoya. Okay. Ewoya. Sa yenuano moti hono. They must begin to resist some of these things because assassino eyomodia. Mine number any impact, especially environmental havoc be okoso no. Omo no be face ni kese. Minister de bi oti akra o. Anase bia minu abu ono kwotena bupe. On May honum na earthquake be abesi a be affect no on May honum na mineral be ewro omunsuo mu a affect no so they must begin to resist. So you elevate this 1% no to somewhere 10%. They should not agree to this deal.
Mene na nanoma himfu bi kura your press conference say I think 3 traditional areas. One my press conference say enya dia on be pene ama wo mo atu esan say womo Abuachi festival no kra no almost as so mo yomu tse samane na abese ni gina honorable why this rush me ti e no dana yesi asan contract me ti e no manka se me bufu ya na me boa no kra ba ko pe me de me pharmacy mu sie me bufu pa me bisa se eti Ghana phone to me enye yen to me I'm the same Sagana for Timmy Kwame de papa no cry example say ebia yenya lithium o o say Kwame despite wa he bra and so for support wa he bra we atwum Midwest bra second so wa he bra azum line wa he bra yenya sam eja Kwame so wa he bra
bomidin
we can say also wa he bra
big man
at least yet to be Ghana for be 20 I mean can say lithium yi de yenya ni yenya lithium dodo say ye pese yetu munni ehu akade a mo international link am woni na mo nkora mo kopem na Ghana de be guarantee am mo enti wo be to kofa shovel ya be kofa pickers misuma kofa kenten ben be fa we enti be wiase no na ne me ye nyina no ye setumi aka 2 ebia na ehu nimde na ye sheda eni technical know how no so ntinu yakoko han krofo na etu omoka na yema Ghana for understand this krofo no acha within a year Ghana for be hunu ye mo wie modwuma bonko this Ghana for take responsibility gentumi anye sade no and Dr. Steve Mantia kan na nansa no me guan ho me say o say 5 companies for Ghana ha ebetumi obo engineers and planners Ibrahim Mahama obonidi obo 3 4 become refi kakra it's why are you doing this to ourselves yes sir
menimu nyina ya adwen de mo kanya menimu ya adwen patade no me hu se bibi wo baby aye hide on me say sisi a situation wo mo sisi an say most of Ghanaians the investors be ba Ghana na omo de ba na say adwuma bi pie no mbe ya Ghana for ni dinim pie because company no mbe register no ana company no omudi ba no if baby na omudi aba baby foforo ebia ame company fi Turkey ana if baby efi na omudi aba Ghana but ne mu kan de anka yam young guys here studio house here ya betima ka ye hu abom odi yes kan ye nyibi but ye betima ka ye hu abom aka say ade we ye pese ye engine at least aban hwe say oni ebe yes adwuma no me can we because when me say o can say e co parliament ama omonya dey omonyi ntum onya sa na ben we can but baby apie na edu sesia no oh ye wo two political parties wo parliament omoni e wo ho sesia yi communicators ni be call round no maka oh NDC for the MP NDC for the MP but approval be a parliament be no NDC for count MPP for count and as approval no eba but omu wie so a na de say omu breakfast ni omu meetings coffee break ni normal omenya wo ho ni de eno no bi anka ho hwe omu wie na ba out here na de babe na ba say oh aban what is one say no why say abunya so MP anamboa or a member of parliament and or a minister for lands and natural resource it means parliament no only most of the parliamentarians needing commodity omu nyina nim de ye e Ghana say ye we a oh ye sisi an ye kan ross ye kan sa say adena contract no wasan no enye contract na o person wasan na so wasan no enye nti ben e kan say ye ko school we a na ye just school na to baby ye mfa school no aye kono ehu ade anya ade but uncle ben the woman say one day I don't say me tears as we be say nti honorable minister for lands and natural resource osolo ya no di na ho ade ekoye sade na
na san call parliament enti parliament man to me say won konko ye en wa kokosan afi ansa na ye de be call parliament na say na me say
that be say no de me say ansa na de be call parliament na so ni at least the investor no anase nipa na say Ghana no kra de di animu no mo ya say mumie no munya some MOUB common understanding be as na parliament
na me pastor na me kase na man hemfo no wɔn say wɔn ɛnyɛ no 22nd November 2023.
I said we no go buy in Chebia.
Also, 3 paramountcies in the central region have objected strongly to the mining of lithium in their territories by Green Metal Resources Limited. The territories include the hunting ground of the Ifutu, which sustain the Abachi Festival. Ghana Green Metal Resources Limited has been warned to stop mining if they want peace or suffer the consequences for challenging the paramountcies. The objection to the mining of and the warning to GMRL were made at a press conference this morning by the paramount chiefs of Ifutu State, Nenyi Gate, the paramount chief of Gomua Ejumako traditional area, Obrimpon Yamfol, Krampa, and the paramount chief of Gomua Achampim traditional area, Obrifo Ahunaku Ahol, and Cobra Autosumienu. They accuse Green Metal Resources Limited for mining within the protected areas of Yenku Forest Reserve. One more a lithium. Or say Green Metal Resources Limited.
But the contract was with Barari DV Limited, so this may be different.
And this may be different because Lithium and Casanomos Omunya
and to when we are the
one. Galamse ana company no. Akoje ehwa but
feasibility
yes feasibility
yan for the circle na nan kra nya ya
but
Ghana for yen to be nye cat will be yen to we then example be o man
we can do it say me kwa me can say emnante na ya yeti you we Jacob obey special advisor to the team you beti mai anamboa but unu ye be kobo no na Ghana ni mapapa e ka ho a e bia percentage kura wo mu no kura no e bia na ono but me maximum me bisa ne say Jacob asafe na parliament enti ye nyina ye susu hu say ye mpese ye ti say Ghana fo e na ye dia ma omo e na omo ye na percentage wise no sika no bebi a ye nya ho bia no enka Ghana ha bebi a na me ni ben ye adwin kakra ne ye sa percentage na ye di ma communities na 1% 0.9 something percent ne dia ma community no onim yes say on benya $4 billion inti ye fa 1% say me boa e be ye say eduma ben pa how many kilometers na betima ye from Ustatifi the main road udi ko Sakronum they need hospital nya clinic because even eduma no be ye no kra no mo ko we have protection but what you say inti sa percentage na ye di ma no enu wasem na ye kan fine but when it comes to the signing of the contract me I think say it's not done ye nya ho eduma ye but and then you can wasem fine
yeah see assign
because I information
minister na can say is the best contract
oh say no can asem say is the best
and the deputy so betina fie
and I'm saying
look so betina fie I confirm say sa lithium na contract so sign no is the best contract ever signed.
They can be say omo search pa I will find out say nyina you find out say company nankasa na aim for there
but that is an Australian company.
Yes, that one is constant is there. But ubon sa
but say no nya in the nature of public interest until obi na akofa ba na so no na ebegenic whatever it's called kickback and any percentage or whatever it's not and more minor or kwan bia so
and more minor kwan bia so
it's not any
say 13% say 13% say you can say percentage the same 30% even the say foreign company no nku ampo no hoye and no ma Ghana 13% and na Ghana for ampo na ye na ma government 13% kura the same thing but me dey make an say ye ni pakaka ye ti say $250 million right
na say anti abena dem kura say $1 million nya ho
ya ko wan say
oni po ba ko pe $1 million
e no unu say ayi isa body
me nya ho no ko nya say
what can say ska sa
me na no ti fi ano ka sa not me je ano ka
eti
dey go be you miss I say bad here the blame ma government I am for no more nti dey go ma wonya sure say I am for any abanya trans dadana. Oh yes, sure say. So do you think the government can just move to the field to say yes sign contract? Surely this stakeholders meeting now we can say e hu hia pa no o maye me sure so maye ni nyina enye bi krom papa ye onfi ho ofu bi fu krom a obeka oh say bia minister efrem panifo minister ni panifo betena se ye cheche omumu omumu di animu ti say japan ni mo omunim say aduma no ebi ni mo ba aba cheche omumu o mate ase omumu se mfa so so pa e ma omawie omaji atum ubekum no na there is MOU government na say himfo no kra no o masan if I say government the ministry but what you say it is say women nyina no na yesi etimi hwehwe mu yi but me de no kra ba akopɛ the woman says enoma we na PP un say Ghana nyame hia yɛn pa o yɛte ho a ehu no maybe na mo ba bi ka kyerɛ me say Ghana you have everything but you mu na ba ko apie but apie a ekwan be fa so e dia saa de no be ye ya nkasa ye mamu yie no Ghana de hwakora o ye fan say 40 million people ebia Washington Atlanta nko enipa edoso say eche Ghana right but uhwe sika nka ye wo okromu aska ye nya aye bitimi dia boy ya nkasa ye ho bra enu na minister dia bayo trade minister was starting nso yenti ase because no na wodi aba nyina no edidi efa ho no say ye se foreigners na e ba be saade no yenso ye se enoma ya se mayen kan fam yi foreigners no usha Indian for do no na ka right
ho sane ma ne de government policy esa aba na so tumi hihye na ohun saade we ade
enti aba no hihye enti odi aba out enti enya ye discuss you refuse say good parliamentarians nso mo ho
so be kan wasa
omo so kan wasa say ade no omo jatum ana mo nyintu
eja enti Ghana for yentumi nye
eja bibi ye but on say etoda ya na medwen ho a metie nkomo na ubisa say den pa they say didn't support the agreement, and I was listening quite carefully. One can say giving it out, it's a good thing, and I think I must respect him for that. We've given 42.63 square kilometers, which is about 0.02% of Ghana landmass. Near them will be for 15 years. In Krayasase, 2-bedroom, Uko East Lagos. What the will be $3,000, 2-bedroom for 1 man. You must say, "Dear, yes sir." Obi kuta ball, no than a ball bag gra. Yen shano. Oshana yapon watching a ball. Minianaka bununia busa. Men are now as well being chimney and the gym. Bunu. Okosi say omo mo ye adwuma wo ho wo ye hwesoni wo wi a se omo bibi ka ho a obefa mu mienu wo de ba ko wa ma wo bibia na wa wo ya ye pai mu mienu ofa mu fa
no so afafa
wa fafa ya se bi mina na wa nko school mina na onim sebio ye beka se sebi wa nko school e wo nyansa we kire se ajapade ye media de dikai me fa mo be 15 years afi bia okodo odom ye nche afi bia afi ne so na wa anya ni ya mefa hweto ni foforo 15 years MPP say is the best contract NDC says is the worst contract and then MPP will say oh is better than the agreement we've signed we more sign it then because royalty most sign it 5 you sign it 10 carried interest most sign it 10 you sign it 13 you say MIF will also have the opportunities of Mobeka 6%. 1% of revenue bear fund into Yebose. Eja, the edika busa lithium na yeden, lithium no yeden. Baby we are say kono ye reduce oil and fango hydrocarbons. Lithium is one of the main or adeba ko replace and I say this is budget where you say electric vehicle or the bar yeah better tax our electric vehicles because that is where the future is. Your phone are kutai any electrical gadget or battery won't be no lithium and no battery. The value of the lithium market globally is about 2.5 billion estimates. It's projected to be about 6.4 billion by 2028. With growing, say, or mining, you reducing and now we are seeing in a person mote fang use no. Lithium will become one of the most precious metals globally. Nyamen Chad Ghana and lithium maybe. Many can service agreement, but as an inche mono service agreement here, me wa Japade. Oye hwesuni senya men na ye na bra beye adwuma oye adwuma okaye sen mani tuamu bi wani tuamu bi oka nyina ye sei ye tua oka na ebia amfaso e beba so no yakase wumom na ebema royalty 10% because the Japade na media nti oka obo ye nyina enie jusika medase oye hwesuni mfaso a mekoton mekoko menya enie nti oso jimu onfaso dia no Japade na fibia no I can choose a service provider. Sebi eja uhia ngoma. Do you need book for this? Ye hia ngoma. Osusu say service agreement ne ye den a ye free be joint venture. Okay, Southern America joint ventures stage of 50% and na 51 or 49. Eye mi eni dia. Uye bi mi ye bi ye wi aya che. Menitium nyafe na obeye financials akase maboka for 15 years ni na maboka inti taxes kwa unji abi eja we eye ngoma ni hia unhia ngoma no wadi sa nkomo we sebi senior mekan no odo ball ekwa agora ye nhyew wo hye me amapega mafama de ya pon ya pon ewe abro obi take bi obenya omu bebi she obenya omu nti yawo ya bra na be obi she bi obenya omu nti na mani yes na mana na say ye den because me say Dr. Mantia no me re ho pa was 5 companies organ on which we to lithium no on their owner obi support wo je na me kan no bibi ye but the ye no me sheda ebia no ka ho but say ye na no negotiating on property that belongs to them for a long time. These principles are well established. Na yehu enyesa ebia minim but ebia obinfa so obenya hosu ntia. But I think overall no whether on parliament no I think it's important say your constitution 268 says that any transaction contract undertaking involving the grant of a right concession by or on behalf of a person including the government of Ghana to any other person or body whatsoever described for exploration of any mineral water or natural resources of Ghana made or entered into the coming into force of this constitution shall be subject to ratification of parliament.
Okay.
Say be a company no nyeshwa. Parliament must ratify it for it to be binding.
Okay.
Sebi, the reason why Ghana fought Tuaba and says a parliament should be split is for days like this. Mesre we said be a book. Mesre impanyifo tia we shouldn't ye new way to say they say all the other minerals. We can name I mean Joburg doesn't mine more gold than Obuasi does. No. Ko Joburg na ko hwede omode and even that it is said say they could have been better. Until my nye ko sefi na ko hwebe bia ye to gold. Me ko ye adwuma I went to do some training or one of the mines. Eja mere hoye. Me fidia nkwata me nyina ya adwuma wo hwede mu. Me fa kwan so Kenya ase kwan so. We heard the poverty of the people are ye to sika kokko wo mo na ase. Kwesi ada so a be kwa akobọ mpa ye se ye bewu na ya kosoro akonanti sika kokko so. Ababre sika kokko hye ye na ase. Ye wi ana ya dakom. Eja we here book in here kasatenting. We have options for a service agreement. We have an option for a joint venture.
Okay.
But our carried interest in these conversations should not be the patents we're talking about.
Okay.
And yet 5%, not 10% in common. considering the value of this metal going into the future. You find say gold ya anye ni ye. You find say oil ya anye ni ye. Cocoa ya say no. Sebi. Se nyame hu ya mobo the future of all iron metals bekan ya also sebi. Biya enti yendwe mani nti asinti no so ye de.
Be chana. We asem bisa ya obisa no pay. Se eno so ye de be che. Kwa. Anke betu ehu bibi na boa. Ama o mananya so mfaso ana. Dr. Steve Mantia mehwe kwan se nyakopon ya do ebenya onma betena ha. Ewo be hia se do ba bia ye kan pain chen payifo no pain se sebi tafrache mu bu ye kwase adodo. Mu manema bi enko ye mfa moa ye. Mu munya mu je wi eno ano no you think about yourself but not the entire population of the country. Because Sagana for betumi etu a didn't am Ghana from Ghana for ntu. Why? Sagana for betumi etu a didn't yem fam yes say e only Ghanaian hwe Nigeria for oil refinery a Dangote ni makoko yi. Within 10 years so better neka ama adan Nigeria for Japade forever and ever. The economy is going to change. I didn't yem to be nya bi my ho so man. Na ye so bibie benye bia na epia ma hoho. Bibie benye bia na epia ma hoho. Esa ni ankorankora bi pesa mi nkominyanti. Sa Lithium me ka hwasam last that they be every you for oti region po na me dem ko kana me nu say na bi o central region because she nananom wo oti say nananom mo oti region so munim na mo pene ama ma ho bi betu Lithium na me ne mo obi ka mo ka say mo pese Ghana for the 2 Lithium na wo oti region no mo hia bro ni bia what central region paying for wo hwe Ghana higher yesi ba bi o hia wo pa central region ka ho na se nyakopon adom anya sa na me ya ya ma ho betu na betu central nanan ma hemfo mun sori nkasa mun pene na mpene chena I'm so advocate for that na ya ma Ghana for the 2 Lithium no na beboa yen nya sa na na ye no ya so mpa me da ase ben me da ase honorable me da ase your excellency oh ya time na so me pa
oh no just a second ayi menu asompa kan asembi na me pese me ye correction bi wo say enyese bi a me ade na ma sign me nyintumo me nti ase intimenti ase no
untu na be kan fa on party
but that must say on ti say meti ase
no o ansa na waka wasa me da se pa enti no kure ba ko pe ye nkobu kika nsem bi a munyire Ghana ho na munya mo pese me nkumnya honhom na ahya mo ma na bibia pese mo ebia no de mbanya di na modwene ho anya Ghana fo ho na modwene no mo beji amunye sanse mo man no owo kwan bia so nti Lithium no nanan ma hefo finfin mantam sabo ansore pa amanfo mo finfin mantam sabo ansore pa anka sabo mpeni na Ghana fo se ebetu Ghana fo ntu that is all eno ani here oti region ye hwe mo sabo ba peni so a ewie madam asese munya abre eba ye na ansan me sore so no Nana Kofi Entwibo esi akwa makohene wawoda uma Melinda and afu Papa Frank and cancer so happy birthday. Sanso and immigration lady bakota krade habo. Your friend no Ruslav Bampo wonso wawoda wadan for dubu afo asem cancer so happy birthday. Sanso and Mrs. Kantinka Mrs. and Sonya Meye also and ochina na ewa hoda enti oyere say edua ba enti Mrs. Kantinka anopai ukunu samin kan show say happy birthday in advance and now me come me ukunu say onua ba man so me so happy birthday in advance Mrs. Kantinka Mrs. enso nyame na aye enso nyame ye enso nyame ye Mrs. enso nyame ye sakamai also happy belated birthday in advance yochina intina eno no we ye de besia na da boafo na specialize na fe this way ni na busuafo na Vodafone eboa yen na fe St Andrews na house fu ayen na ne kwakra no ye domino haba padan so eboa yen ye je sika oil sika na mo fo ya de mre yen eno achi Lithium no sanya Ghana fo no betu a ye ntu ne entu china mama ye mpene so esan se amanfo edidi ama amanfo huna mane ye de esi ya yakopon ya do adase na ebehia yakramo